Hey there, welcome to Plat, Jett and VALORANT episode 78. We've got the crew together to discuss North America and also other stuff too.
I'm Avast.
And yeah, oh yeah, Avast and Bren have swapped
I'm
bodies.
Bren today. What does that mean that I can do? I'm gonna put some green. Well, actually, I'm just gonna ask about the inside of Bren. Now that because I don't understand it. Bren, you put a clip on Twitter where there was like dancing fruits and shit on the clip, and I don't understand like what was happening in the moment. Like, were you playing bug snacks? Like,
no, I was playing ranked, and I've learned that the key to winning is like an element of whimsy. So I've learned from the X10 guys, and so what I've noticed is I get too tilted in the game, and I've started overlaying baby sensory videos over the top of my stream. So it doesn't record the audio because I've got that turned, like I've got the setting so it doesn't record audio, so I don't get DMCA'd. That didn't show up in the clip, but behind the dancing fruits is the baby sensory audio and the baby sensory footage. And I was eating while I was playing ranked, and I got crumbs everywhere.
There you were doing your house husband duties.
I got crumbs everywhere, so I had to vacuum it up because I'm like neurotic like that. I don't like mess around. I have to clean it up immediately if I create a mess. So I was vacuuming in between the clutches and the rounds, and I was like, well, I'm playing Viper. I can just set up my wall and press it up. And I'm like, they're not going to hit B, and then they hit B, and I was like, oh, I'm going to drop the vacuum. And yeah.
And then I think you said I got mine, didn't you?
Yeah, I got one kill, and I was like, I did better than most, so.
Yeah, that's a real winner's mentality. That's a real. You've definitely unlocked the secret to winning in ranked there. Yeah. Good work. And you're in a bit of a haze today, right? You've been feeling a bit ill. So
I felt the onset of sickness. You know, the early warning signs when you're feeling like, oh, I've got a bit of a cough. Oh, my nasal passage is feeling weird. You know, I've got a bit of a fever. So I was like, oh, I think I'm getting sick. And then I slept like 14 hours today, like last night. And I took Dayquil, and now I feel like I'm just in a haze. I've got the brain fog on for this episode. I'm like, I'm trying to peer through the mist. My white balance, my camera's all weird. And that's why I'm remote. I don't want to get you guys sick, you know, but
I appreciate that.
I'm feeling, I don't know, like actual bong alien in person.
Yeah, you could see it overlaid in that last clip as well. Just the alien bong just rotating infinitely.
Yeah, something's gone very weird with you. Oh, look, we're back to normal. Bren is Bren and Avast is Avast. So we can continue with the show. All is right with the world. The Yoru buffs are where I want to begin this episode with. The Yoru has undergone a rework. I am no longer taking applications for my chatters to play Yoru in my games. I've decided it's off the table. People can't use that as a channel points redeem. I'm waiting until the rework comes. If they redeem Yoru,
you just won't play it.
Just not playing it. Just scamming
just
people.
Take their money.
Your win rate on Yoru is
it's 26%.
Horrific.
That's
it's
horrific.
26%.
I mean,
that is horrific.
The numbers.
Yeah,
and I would imagine all of those are just from your chat forcing you to play it.
Oh yeah, I've never played Yoru on my own. Maybe when Yoru first got released, I played like 1 or maybe even 2 games of him, but that's about it. But this rework was hinted at a while back. There was some little clips and teasers posted about it, but here's the proper article with all of the changes. So let's start at the top. The fake out, that's normally his footsteps ability. That's just a footstep. You can leave it on the ground and do it later, but whatever. So now it's a full copy of Yoru that just waddles forwards. I mean, Marv put out a tweet saying, this guy walking like Shanks. He's just holds W and walks forwards, which, I mean, there you go. And if you kill it, it flashes, but it doesn't flash your own team. It's a one-way flash.
It's in a cone.
Yeah,
it just comes out towards because it looks where.
It changes direction and looks at the person.
It tries to.
There's a video that shows it.
Yeah,
there's a little video down there. I mean, we were theory crafting before the show. There's all types of ways you could use this to optimize your attack.
Talk to me. What you've been theory crafting?
Such as executes coming in. Well, we could use bind A as an example. You know what I mean? You know someone, I mean, I don't typically the defender, I mean, probably wouldn't be standing there, but maybe would be standing more towards the triple box, or, you know, maybe in the position where they're jump peeking or like behind the truck, you know. You send in the Yoru towards the position where you know they're peeking from, or maybe they're peeking from U-Haul. You send the Yoru over there, and you just follow up behind it. You use it as a bit of a human shield. And then when it takes the bullets, boom.
When it takes
but can't they just shoot
flashed
through it too? But I guess if you follow up like staggered, then yeah, I guess.
Right, but you just swing out behind. You know what I mean?
But your idea was to use it as a human shield.
Yes.
Doesn't it die in one bullet?
Yeah,
I mean, that clip shows it dying in one bullet.
And there's also still like
so
bullet penetration, right? So
listen, they're not going to see you behind it. They're not going to.
You have to be perfectly aligned behind it.
Walking behind
it. You look a flat Stanley motherfucker over here, just like right up against
they're not going to see you behind it. Or the real turbo brain play is to not use it at all and just walk in a straight line and pretend to be it. Because against good play, it's what Def said. Like, it looks like a Silver 2 player walking forward. No one's going to shoot it at a high level.
Yeah, Def's tweet.
Okay, that's where the outplay comes in, because
it's the Def tweet.
It's me, and then I just pop out with a rifle.
Could you bring up the Def tweet? He had a conversation about this where he was like, I mean, does it flash off the damage or does it expire? Because if it expires, then maybe you can use it to like pop flash yourself into places or something.
Yeah.
And he said at a high level, no one is shooting an AI walking in a straight line like a Silver 2. If you scroll down, I think it was like Tom or something responded. Oh no, it was Exalt. There it is. Saying, I like this. You can pretend to be the clone and walk forwards in a 1v1 post-ban situation. And then Def responds, I mean, wait, so you're going to intentionally bot run in a 1v1? What happens when Ye one taps you with a jiggle and you don't blow up into a flash?
I mean, but I do think there are some legitimate, like, even looking at bind as an example, right? Like, on A short, in that specific instance, like, imagine, like, someone has the Nats wall down with Viper, right? And, like, they're trying to go, like, lurk in, get control of U-Haul or something, and lamps. Like, what happens to, like, just one of those fast executes where you just throw in the Yoru clone before you as you enter, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like in a moment where like 3+ people are going for, or like a double swing, right? And you plop a clone in front of you, it could be pretty good. I feel like for like executes where you're looking to take control of an area and you're looking to double or even triple peek, the clone could actually be decent, because like they're expecting the execute and they're like, oh shit, like, am I just not gonna shoot like when they start swinging? Yeah. Like, you know, it's a pretty risky move, right?
Part of the good part about the example you've given too, though, is that people are often going to be holding that wall from pocket where you don't have any cover to play behind. If you're going to try and use the clone where someone can be playing around a corner and just tap and dodge the flash, it's going to be pretty shit. But in the example you gave, if someone is holding from pocket, then I mean, they're going to shoot and immediately turn the flash? They're just going to die. So
yeah,
there are going to be some
situation where it's like a double the triple peak. Like,
yeah,
they can't turn the flash when people are coming up right behind it.
Yeah, my biggest issue with this, when people are thinking about these Yoru changes, is they're thinking about it in like an isolated instance of just the ability being thrown out, you know, and not how it could be used with other stuff. Because you've already seen, like, teams will, if they're running like double initiator, they'll run drone and dog at the same time, so that you have to decide which one you shoot and you get a bunch of information. It's pretty rare, but you know, sometimes they do it. Like, I can see scenarios where they send in a Yoru clone, the Yoru clone, and I don't know, you drone up behind it. You know what I mean? And like, you're essentially using that, because you could hide the drone behind, you could hide a dog behind it, and if they shoot the dog or drone, they're gonna get flashed. You know what I mean? Like, they have to clear it, and it adds like another element of like, oh, if I shoot this, I'm gonna get flashed, and there could be somebody playing behind the drone who's just gonna swing. I mean, like, there's combos on combos that you can do with this.
But one of the cool things about the dog and the drone is that they're controllable. This just goes.
See, this is what I'm thinking. Now I'm going to preface this point. It's not good.
Wait, what do you mean?
But sure. I can't stop thinking about it, which is, listen, if this doesn't work, if it needs to get buffed further, I think they try and make it like a boom bot, where if someone comes into its line of sight, he starts sprinting at them. And just kind of like when he's in the dimensional drift, and he just, someone's in line of sight, and it just fucking sprints right at them and just flashes them in the face.
No, then it would be good. It would be good. It would be better. Because
I think that would be also very fucking funny.
Okay,
if they did that.
Now imagine someone's pretending to be the clone, and they just walk down A short, spot a player, sprint at them.
Yes.
You can never pretend to be that clone. It's just too stupid.
Well, yeah, but at that point, it's not so much about that. But at that point, it's actually decent, because you're at least getting information.
Yeah.
I mean, this, you're just not. You're not you're potentially gathering no information whatsoever, because if someone sees it from any angle to the sides of it, they're not going to shoot it. Like, it's just not going to be in their way at all. Which is why it's got to sprint at you.
Let's move on to the other abilities, though. By the way, what is this picture of him in, like, demon clothing? What does this mean? What is this?
This is just this is the animation for when he blows up, right?
For the enemies. Yeah, they're just showing the art design, because they were talking in the article about it was with the Yoru rework, the big thing was the art redesign, because they have to create entirely new looking abilities.
Ah.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Really interesting for anyone looking for behind the scenes look into what goes into this kind of stuff from a game developer perspective. Okay, the gate crash. So they're saying not much has changed since the last post, but a lot has changed if you're comparing him to the live ability. So you have double gate crash, and you can use them as fakes or real teleports, right? And the fake one leaves like a puddle on the floor now as well, with the idea presumably being that you can see it from a distance if there's a fake. So you're like, okay, it could be real if you only hear it, but if you see it, you know it's a fake. So I guess they're just trying to not make it as oppressive as it kind of felt with the redesign.
Yeah, I mean, especially when combined with, which we'll talk about, but also combined with the ult and being able to use utility. Like, I imagine they want to just have more views to where you can figure out if it was a fake. So that's pretty much it, I'm assuming, because you can't just have it like, if you were able to just fake TP with no consequences, it kind of is a little strong, right? Like, if you're never able to know if it's a real TP or a fake TP ever, then like there's no outplay, right? There's really no outplay other than like you have to be constantly aware of everything.
Yeah, so if you want to know if you see it pass, it forces you to actually move yourself.
And there's also no way to do it improperly either, right? Because like you can't put it in a situation like you could just throw it next to them and they wouldn't know still. While this, if you threw it, like you could just know.
Cool animation too, actually. I do like it.
Yeah. I mean the art looks really good. And what was the final one? The final one, probably the biggest change that they've made to Yoru, is the ult.
They've overloaded this bad boy.
Yeah, they've made a massive change to it. I mean, it's purely a buff, apart from you can't do the weird tens come out of it and kill someone with a shorty play.
They did more than that. The invulnerability frame on cast, so you can't run around with it with your ult. They removed that, so you can be killed, I think, while ulting.
Right. But to start from the top, Yoru is no longer revealed to enemies. So if you get close, you don't get to see the little sprinting blue boy that's like, boo. Yoru's also able to cast all of his utility while he's in Dimensional Drift. So for people who are dog shit at Yoru like me, you don't have to remember to put down the teleport first. You can cast Dimensional Drift and still escape.
Even the greatest of Yorus still do that because it's a little clunky.
Enemies can hear Yoru's footsteps, which previously you were only able to hear the footsteps if you were close to him, or could you not hear his footsteps at all? I can't remember what current
I don't play against Yoru, so I don't know. But
yeah, I know you can see him when he's close.
I don't think you could hear the footsteps when he was ulting.
Yeah, okay. So I mean that is another nerf too, but he also can see everything. He's not nearsighted anymore, so massive information gathering and much easier to actually have usefulness because you can throw your flashes while you're invisible and stuff. But you can't do the shorty thing because the unequipped delay time is increased, so you've got to be in a safe location when you come out of it, and you've got to be in a safe location when you go into it as well. What do you think about these changes? It does shift what people are going to use his ult for slightly.
See, I think the main... Well, I think there's a couple parts of it, but the one thing that I do like is rather than it being the RNG kind of shorty kill attempts where you feel like because of the near sight, you have such limited information that you're just hoping to get close to an enemy and pop out and surprise them and kill them and get away, rather than being able to work yourself into a good position that's advantageous for your team to then work off of. And I think with full vision, it'll be easier to know just when you're safe so you can actually find a cheeky position to go behind. Like maybe you, in some scenarios, if you're going through bind, now that you can see everything, you won't be able to run through the site and go up towards heaven and be behind, and then your team can execute and you're behind, something like that. Where previously you're trying to work through the whole site and you don't really know where players are, you don't know where they're rotating to, they get out of your field of vision so quickly. that I think there are going to be more safer opportunities to come out of the dimensional drift and just stay in the position that you left in. Like, you don't have to come out of it, do something, and then you just have to TP back to your spawn right away. You can actually maintain the position you go to because you know it's safe, because you can actually see. So I think that's going to be pretty cool.
It seems like a better Omen ult in some ways, like where the usages of Omen ult tend to be kind of cheesy in a way, where you're just TPing behind enemy lines and they have to clear it. But with the Yoru, like you're saying, Wyatt, you can do the same thing and kind of stay there because you can lay down a lot of your util now. You can lay down a TP, you can flash as well if people are trying to hard clear you. Like, you'll be able to see them, and they won't be able to see you unless they get close, and you can actually use your util. If they're trying to hard clear you in a position that you're in, you throw out a flash, escape, maybe they're flashed, or maybe they've turned for it, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like a stronger Omen ult to me. But it's hard when you are only seeing it in isolated instances, like when they are just showcasing the abilities, to picture how it will actually work in game. That's always the point I keep in the back of my mind, because just going off of experience, whenever we've been on this podcast and talked about a new agent that's been leaked or whatever, we've always gotten it critically wrong. I feel like when we're talking about, most of the time we've gotten it pretty wrong. Like, I remember the Killjoy one was the one that stuck out in my mind as the one, because we were like theory crafting, like, what, she has these mollies and her ult just completely takes away your gun? What? And we were losing our minds at the concept of it without really thinking about the counterplay potential that comes out, you know, or like how you counter it.
I think part of the problem there as well is that we just didn't realize that it was a pulse rather than being like an area of effect kind of thing.
Also, did we even know what the outplay was? Like, did we even know that it could be?
No, in that instance, we didn't have any information.
Yeah, but I think
destroyable.
Part of Bren's point as well. These things need like theory crafting, and well, not just theory crafting, but actual like practical experience to figure out the practice. But a couple of things that spring to mind immediately for me are, even you're just thinking about that bind A example and what you're saying about Heaven. The video shows him going into the ult as he teleports, just to showcase that you can do those things. But you can now set up your teleport. Let's say you send a TP in from showers to the back A site. You can get into your ult, immediately teleport, and then just run into their spawn, into Heaven. You can get behind them so fast compared to what you would previously be able to do with Yoru. And the other thing I'm thinking of too, even if you don't want to do that kind of like really deep behind them, pinch kind of setup, you can be in your ult and be throwing flashes for your team that you could never normally throw. I mean, you could just use your ult to get into sick positions to come where people are and then throw a flash that bounces right in front of your opponents. Yeah. Like, you could do some bonkers shit in terms of that. And how do you outplay that if you're
just run in there,
a defender?
Start spamming pings and just flashing people.
Yeah.
And just
I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about the fact that you can just flash people while...
Yeah. You can stand next to someone, and all of my practice with team flashing Bren on Yoru is now useful because I can get in my ult, the hopium of Yoru being good, and then I just run into a bomb site and team flash, except it's my opponent.
The people don't know that you actually accept money to team flash me on your stream. They lack the context of that sentence that you just uttered.
Yeah, I mean, I have ever, and I deeply regret the fact that my competitive edge for money harmed my integrity, and it will always be something that I
This is a real,
regret.
like, pro
you'd never fit in a T1 with their culture of integrity. They'd never allow you over there.
Yeah, that's true. You would never make it. You'd never make it with them. This actually, I'm going to be honest, my mind is kind of folding inward like some sort of protein right now when I'm thinking about like the fact that you can flash while invisible.
Yeah,
like that's because
so
like
silly.
I was thinking about this before, because now, like, even before I was like, okay, I thought that the way they changed the vision is actually objectively good now, because this is just, to me, like, even if you don't use the ult in any cool manner, it's just like an insanely good info gathering tool now, because you can, with no risk at all, walk in, look at someone, have full vision, and just clear it. It's like a drone that is an ult, essentially, and you can't be killed. Like, you're just invisible. Like, you're gonna get the info just for looking from it now. So like, people have to be aware now, if an ult gets popped, they can see where you're at. Like, it's a full vision gathering tool in your setup screen room. But now you're telling me they can do that and then flash you for free. And like, what do you even do? Because like, if the ult gets popped, like, do you just play anti-flash randomly? Like, if you hear the footsteps, you just anti-flash now? Like, do you go play
I would say Yoru's flashes are, I think, one of the easiest to dodge in the game. a pretty good sound cue off of it.
But what
It's very
happens if you just
bright on
combo
your
with other
screen.
utility though, right? Like you're gonna play the executive guy. Like imagine you'd go in like with the Yoru, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna flash, and then you drop like a dart or you drop a dog or something, right? Like how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of execs that you can do with the ult where honestly he just becomes a team player where he is going in trying to gather info and set up cool flashes.
I
and
think
then
he's way better as that than like
maybe he ends his.
parry.
Yeah, I mean, it really
maybe
is.
he ends his ult in a behind you position, but I don't think he'd have to. I think he'd still provide pretty decent value. Can you bring up the Doom Bros tweet actually? Because I saw like Def's kind of reaction to this primarily focused around the bot movement, and then I saw a lot of people having the same kind of feel where they're like, this doesn't really do too much. Doom Bros kind of went the exact opposite way when thinking about the whole kit of Yoru. This is the head coach for FPX saying the classical cycle of overbuffing an agent that was kind of viable anyway. And I'm like, whoa, that seems like a spicy take to me because I don't know many people that were calling Yoru kind of viable anyway. He was quite poo anytime he was used in a match. And Doom Bros is thinking about this as being an overbuff. Do you think there's a world where that's true? Is this like the not really a Viper rework, but like I'm not even sure. There hasn't really been another agent that's been fully reworked and is suddenly bonkers. But
yeah, I'm in Viper, and that's
Viper
really
was like
think of.
slowly tuned over time to the point where she was just insane.
Yeah,
this isn't quite the same case. But do you think it's going to have the same result?
I think. I mean, the thing is, I do think Yoru is kind of viable. The problem is though, wherever he's kind of viable, other agents are really viable. So
yeah,
there's just no reason to risk it. Like he was kind of cool on Bind, but just play Raze and like Sky and shit. It's just so much better. So wherever he's kind of viable on Breeze. Their team's doing some cool stuff with him on Breeze for a bit, but also just play Jett. So it's I think that's kind of true. I do think he is kind of viable. Very little viability, but it's not enough for him to ever see play because there are just better options. So I think you need to do a massive change like this.
If he gets paired with some mega nerfs to some of the other duelists, which they've said in this act, they're looking to rework some of the duelists, and they said,
I'm ready.
Quote,
I'm ready for the Phoenix Yoru meta.
They did say no agent is safe. They said they were happy to make changes to anyone and everyone. So, if Yoru gets all of this rework and trying to push for his viability, and other people like, I don't know, Jett or
they finally nerfed the dash.
Out.
It just makes you go straight up now. If you it's just
you just cancel jump.
That's
I
how
feel
it
like
works.
he's not even a duelist though anymore. Honestly, when I look at his kit now, he feels more like he fits closer to a Sky than a duel. Like when I look at like how his fakes and like everything is based around, I feel like breaking crosshair placement and setting up your team to swing off of like his fake clone or like setting up your push with his ult. It almost feels much more like an initiator now than
I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from there for sure. Also, they've always tried to make him a bit lurky, and then there isn't really like a lurker role in the game. It's just whatever the fuck you want to be lurking on.
He definitely feels like more of a viable option for doing some big nerdy executes.
God, I love big nerdy executes.
Yeah, that's what he seems good for, though. At least on paper, that's what comes.
That should
to
be
mind.
a really good VCT open team name. It's like big
nerdy
executes.
But in reality, they're just a rain of Jett contact team just running around.
There were some amazing names in VCT as well. Let's start talking about VCT. We'll talk first about the teams that made it through this second open qualifier. We already talked about the first open qualifier last week, and there was a new crop of teams that made it through. As a reminder, just before we start talking about EG, who are the first team through the upper bracket, I just want to remind people who we thought would make it through. We had like T1, Akrew, Rise, and Knights were my 4 teams, I think. Only 2 of those managed to make it.
I remember I said Akrew and Knights were my 2 favorites, and then like I thought Pioneers had a chance still. I can't remember if those are the only 3 I can remember mentioning. But I know the 2 I felt the most confident in were Akrew and Knights, and Akrew certainly did not qualify.
I don't think anyone had EG on their list, though. I don't think EG was on anybody's radar. So here's the question.
Episode, so I can say it was on my list.
Yeah. Connor was aware.
Okay, well, Connor, talk to me about EG then. Why did you believe from the very beginning? You've been talking about EG, praising them, calling Potter the best head coach in the world for months now.
I mean, Potter, she's kind of a next level genius. I mean, my boy Foe used to play with him. He's also just kind of a fragger extraordinaire, always there for the solid trades. Can't get past them. In reality, I didn't believe in this team at all, so it's a shock that they got this far. I'm going to be honest; it's kind of a shock that when I saw the results, because I've been watching the games after the fact. I've been watching them live. I was like, what's happening here? Like, how you telling me EG beat Rise when I find this? And I watched the game, and I was actually really impressed with EG in general. And I thought like a lot of their new pickups, because like it's a pretty new team when you look at the comparison to what they've been in the past. They've performed really well. They actually have like a lot of fragging power, and I know a lot of people were confused when they decided to build around Foe, I think, but I think it showed that decision was wise in this qualifier, because even if he's not always like hitting massive frags, he's a really, really solid trader and always has like I think his positioning is always great. And like the way that he puts his util up is always like good. It's like it's just a fundamentally good player. Boost. And when you add like Dre, who's now been playing a lot of Sova for this team.
They slept on Dre. And now he's back.
Dre, Sova was actually like really, really good.
Yeah.
And he has like that fragging power that you see of like, it reminds me of like one of those Sovas that you get that you see that gets a lot of frags, sort of like that Russ type of Sova that can get a lot of frags, but also I feel like he uses a lot more utility than any of those like frag heavy Sovas. And I think when you have like, because I don't think Jogamo was he with this team for the beginning?
No, he was a new pickup.
Yeah, he's a new pickup, right? Yeah, he's pretty nutty. I mean, like his Ray, it's weird because like he's playing Raze over Dre now. When you used to think like Dre's like the Raze guy, but his Raze is really, really good. I think overall across the board, this is just like a solid team that has like good fragging now.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely forgot about Dre. But it turns out he can just play everything but Jett really well. Like just every single agent he's played aside from Jett, he's been really good on. And now he's playing Sova and Chamber and is playing really well. And dude, I swear people have genuinely slept on Foe for like 2 years. He's been rock solid since legitimately the beginning of the game, from like the first tournament where he was like dunking on T1 with Brax and shit till now. He's actually just been a solid player the whole time and has a much better team around him. But yeah, that last round was a clip I sent Kerr that just had a great execute on A. The thing that was the most impressive for me about this team was that they were just lightning fast with the team reactions. Also, this was just a hilarious last round where they knew Superman was behind the wall in the corner. And they're just so aware and ready for him to be there to win the second map, which they came back on the second map. They were down 8-4 and won every round on attack. 9 in a row on attack. And then won the map after this.
Classic Rise in this qualification. Collapse. Up 8-4 at the half.
Yeah, I mean, individually, they rolled Rise over. On the second 2 maps, Dre and Foe were just going nuts. I was really impressed. And I think the team was playing an excellent game. I felt like they were just lightning fast with the trades. And I was very, very impressed with the EG that I saw here.
Yeah, the run of EG, where the bracket that they were in, we were expecting to see probably TSM and FaZe matchup, and then the winner playing against, maybe EG. But I expected that really to be kind of the place where it would stop for them. And then Ghost Gaming upsets TSM. EG squeaks out the win against Ghost Gaming, and then I just feel like Rise had another one of their absolute mental collapses in that game. And I'm not saying that EG didn't deserve to be there. They beat the teams in front of them, and they did really well doing it too. But the biggest takeaway for me from EvilGeniuses qualifying was, holy fuck, what's going on in the Rise camp? That was, to me, the bigger story of this game was like, they choke that 8-4 lead, and then the next map is just a flattening. Like they just look so limp, like nothing is happening. And so what I thought of was a easy bracket for Rise to be able to qualify through actually ends up being, them completely choking a good opportunity, and EG are right there to capitalize when it matters.
The rounds like these are just so good, though. They were just so active, man. Like, as soon they rotated so quickly over to A, and as soon as they saw that Rise were attempting to plant, like the recon came in for sight, Foe swings a little bit off that, they find the first pick, and then off that recon, a Jogimo just pops his ult. They have more utility coming in over the truck. They just all swing on it. Reformed swings through U-Haul to open it up, and they're just immediately 5-on-5, just pouncing on Rise when they're trying to get into the site. They just refuse to let them have control of anything when they're trying to take A. They're just so fast with it. There was another round, Kurt, that was kind of similar to that was also just called another Chad play from EG, where, again, it's like there were all these moments, though, on Bind, where Rise would start taking a little bit of the map. They want to do this cheeky play here where the Astra ult is going to allow the players to come out shower, and look at how EG just boomed these guys. Dre is rotating in from spawn. He sends in a recon past the wall, and you can see Foe and Reform just double swing immediately off the recon through the wall, and then Dre pops his ult to support them, and they just roll these guys that were trying to creep out a shower off the Astra wall. Like, they're just so fast. It's not some insane, massive set play, but the trades from them were always just so good. They were always swinging for each other with great timing, and then Foe's just hitting shit like this all game. Him and Dre are just refused to miss with the Vandal. Like, they were in nasty form. I was pretty blown away when I was seeing the rounds like this, just with how confident they were.
Yeah, that to me is a pretty major theme of this qualifier, actually, was the level of confidence. I mean, if you are a team that's going to try and make plays, like control the tempo of the game, push up, have some like team play setups to take map control or to punish an Astral Wall or something like that. The EG guys have got a decision as soon as Astral comes down. Do you just try and hold the other side of it and play for the retake, or do you try and make your own counterplay to put pressure on Rise? And it felt like the teams that were taking the initiative more often were the teams that ended up being really successful.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm inclined to agree. I also agree with your point, Josh, in general, talking about this match. Was the main takeaway for me was that Rise are just, oh my God. They seem to have difficulty performing in high pressure matches. But yeah, I don't want to take away from EG, because I think this is a team with a lot of potential. They make decisions quickly. There's no hesitation in their play. Sloppy from time to time, but I wasn't expecting perfection from Open Qual 2. It's like, you're guaranteed to have the kind of bottom section or like top section of tier 2 teams, I guess, in NA, squeaking into this bracket and playing against each other. And what tends to happen with that is you end up with the teams that, they are playing a little bit more. There's not as many layers to their overall game plan, is how I was looking at it. And yeah, I don't know, really. I mean, they've got time in this group stage to perform well. I mean, there's so many unknown quantities in the group stage for NA in terms of whether or not the teams that are even invited are going to be performing well as on top of it, that I'm left wondering, is there a possibility of them getting into the top 4 of their group?
Yeah, we'll certainly talk about the group stages later. The groups are not officially announced, but they have been reported on because apparently it got communicated to the teams. And we'll do a power rankings later too. One of the next team to make it through the upper bracket was Knights. The Knights have qualified. You ever heard of them? They don't particularly have the most star players on the team. Maybe the most well-known would be, probably Gangster, just because he's been playing since the beginning of the game for like Immortals and stuff. But yeah, they're a team that has done surprisingly well and looked pretty coordinated, actually. They got a decent game. They impressed me to a reasonable extent in the first qualifier, to the point where I thought, okay, these guys are quite likely to make it through next time. And then they did in fairly comfortable fashion. The Sonics are not a pushover team, but they boomed them on split, and probably should have boomed them on Ascent as well, considering they went 7-0 up. This was a deceptively close Ascent, I think, considering how well Knights played.
Yeah.
Sonic split isn't very good, though. But there was like kind of a theme throughout the tournament when they played. They got boomed on split a lot. They got boomed on split versus LG too, like really hard. So
I was scrolling through some of the Knights clips, and I was like, oh, okay, what have we got here? What's kind of the theme of Knights overall? And so I wanted to, Kurt, you got the 3v5 win with the shock darts. It was, so Knights are in a 3v5. It's a really weird kind of scrappy situation happening here when they're playing against BBG, actually, another team that did well in this qualifier. And BBG were putting a lot of pressure on them. They had some great setups. You can see here, it's a little sloppy for Knights. They end up losing that first player. There's a drone down mid, and Frosty's really trying to take space off the back of it, seeing if they can punish Will, because Will's been trying to set back up on the angles frequently here. But then Knights just kind of lose their idea of what they want to do. Looks like they want to go for a lockdown, but then there's a call of like, nah, it's a 4v5. We kind of need something first. And Ban just kind of walks into this shot, seeing if he can make a play over here. So this to me kind of typifies some of the rounds where they were playing against BBG, where actually BBG's structure looked better than Knights, but Knights were able to make some weird stuff happen. In this round, they go for a pivot through Catwalk towards the end and use the lockdown, and a lot of their plays on Ascent are built around putting pressure on their opponents with this ultimate. And when they use the lockdown in the post plant, you'll see that it tries to get countered by the shock darts. They just get completely blocked by a turret, which is
just so
extremely unfortunate. Depressing. But like in this kind of situation, you don't really expect Knights to be able to do too much. BBG have got a vice grip on it, and they just nicely control Heaven, getting in late, manage to find their way into a site, and then, you know, they're using the recon to stop them going up towards the top. But this is like one of the rounds where they pull it back with a clutch kill, and then this here. This is so sad. So the lockdown gets used, and then the shock darts come through, and the turret's just blocking it. The turret just blocks both
that
of those
is
shots.
So funny.
I mean, is that what if that's just genius though?
I don't think that's intentional.
That might just be straight genius.
I mean, because theoretically that is like a common bounce spot to clear that angle.
It is
off there at the wall. Yeah. So I mean, what if it was just genius?
You never know.
Could be.
It might be.
Could be.
Knights are an interesting team though. They are probably not on a lot of people's radars if they're just following like the tier 1 scene, but they have been playing for the longest time now. And I think at this point, with Ziff being the only player on the roster that's been there since the beginning, they have gone through a million different players. And they've actually done a pretty good job of finding talented players. Just for whatever reason, they could never get to a roster that actually worked on paper, even though I think they've done a pretty good job scouting throughout the entire history of the team in Valorant. And Ziff has played it all for this team. He's from Jett to Cypher. He's just played every agent they've needed at some point, and he just remains really solid. The player for me on this team, though, that I think needs to be on people's radar is their smokes player, Scuba. He is very legit. He is an excellent player to look out for.
It was certainly fragging a huge amount in this game too. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with the roster overall in terms of their ability to get these like critical kills that turn around. For example, this round 20, they've got like a little. They dogged into hookah. They used the Sova ult to be able to get the first pick, and then they flash recon here to just boom these players that are holding close after they realize that the players are there. And so they've got this like ability to set up a bit of a set play at the beginning to manufacture a kill, and then a bit of an on-the-fly play to be able to secure the round, which probably should have won them the map, but then I don't know. It felt like at times BBG were the better team, but Knights were able to find these little moments to turn things around. That map ends up going to OT, and they only just managed to win it. BBG were on the cusp of being able to qualify, don't even manage to get through the lower bracket, unfortunately. But yeah, Knights are like, they were just on the cusp of being able to get through these brackets. I don't think they're massively ahead, but they've got some cool pieces and some nice ideas.
Yeah. They're the classic team in esports for me, where it's just the makeup of players who were previously locked on rosters, who didn't find much success, just kind of wasting the potential coming together. Players like Gangster and Ban. And then I think coming up against a team like this, they can be the most dangerous, because so often the recurring theme over the course of watching the open quals too was like a team having an idea of what they wanted to do in a round, the mid-round adaptation or like the initial plan goes wrong, they pivot in the mid round, and because they hadn't really laid any of the foundations previously in terms of maybe a player holding a particular area or getting the necessary information in another round of where somebody was playing, it just evolves into chaos. And it felt like there were so many rounds that just came down to the wire in the final few seconds like this. And Knights are the kind of team that perform pretty well in those scenarios. It sounds like a weird point to make, but I feel like for a lot of these teams, being able to just rely on the mechanics like this and turn these low time rounds into wins for them, I don't know. It's the brain fog's taking over.
Let's move on to the next team. The bong alien is struck.
Bong alien.
LG, they lost to TSM the first time around, but they still qualified, so therefore TSM good enough to make it into the close qualifiers, right? That's how it works. I didn't particularly find LG to be convincing over the course of these two qualification cycles, but they still managed to get through the lower bracket. I think they arguably had an easier run of it than the opposite side, which had Rise and Akrew and BBG, all teams that I think performed very well in this final tournament. What are you guys' reads on Luminosity? Who did they lose to in the upper? Kurt?
They lost to I believe Rise. In the upper.
They lost to Rise in the upper.
They lost to Rise in the upper, and they went down to lower, and they played like I can't remember who they were playing, but they ended up beating, I think, was it Sonics? Yeah, Sonics to qualify, and they beat Pioneers before that. So I think LG falls squarely into like the category that Bren was talking about, how these teams, they have plans and structure a lot, but it kind of breaks into chaos because they just aren't quite structured enough yet. I do think they do some like great things here. Like earlier in this clip, I guess we went a little bit past it actually. But in this clip in particular, I think they rely really heavily. They have some really good set plays. Like right here, they're going to take hall control, and they just immediately like set up the stun, double det pack in, and Mata, who I think is kind of the driving force of this team often, is like how well they utilize Mata to get a lot of frags. And I think, and also B-Dog, like a very, very good opper too. I think they're very much, they have the plans. It's just it falls apart mid-round for them often.
When I look at LG, I see the way they mitigate some of that chaos is by not making it overly complicated. They're not a strats heavy team. They're not scared to just lean on fundamentals and mechanics to get them through rounds a lot of the time, which is, I think, a tale as old as time when you think about LG. Like the contact driven play that used to define them doesn't really so much anymore, but they do keep it simple in terms of their overall game plan, and I think it helps them a ton against a lot of these tier 2 teams where some of them are just like trying to incorporate the layers, trying to incorporate the complexity into like an overall game plan. And that's the thing that falls short. But in general, because they just tend to slow things down, rely a lot on the fundamentals, rely a lot on them hitting shots, they are able to best a lot of the teams in kind of like that tier 2 breaking into tier 1 bracket, I think sometimes. So that was my general read of LG over the course of the open quals, especially against a team like Sonics, because they played Sonics, right, to qualify?
Yeah,
to qualify. Yeah.
And Sonics were, I felt like watching Sonics, they were throwing just a wrench into the plans of teams because they were playing unusual compositions most of the time, and that was causing teams to struggle against them in terms of how to just on the fly play against some of the comps that they were running and some of the ideas and keeping in the back of their mind what they might do. Even though Sonics weren't really doing anything crazy complex, but even still, I think LG's reliance on leaning on simplicity helped them where other teams had struggled against Sonics as a team.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because when I was watching them play, it felt like one of the biggest things for them is that they were confident in taking fights, and then they didn't really have big nerdy executes. They just had they had some nice micro plays like often, and then some really strong fundamentals. And I think something that put them above certain teams too is like you see right there, like they're just not afraid to they did this a lot. They're really aggressive on defense often. They do it on offense too, but like they would not be afraid to just double or triple peak, like just come on down and just take an early fight somewhere. Not expect anyone, and just hoping that B-Dog on the op is going to win, which he did. He does. Yeah. He does win often. And I think that you even see it when they're also not afraid to lose map control, because Moose, who plays mostly a lot of Viper for them, is super mega turbo rat. He's like super mega turbo rep, and so they're not afraid to like give up map control and let Moose just own an area and do like weird things like that. I especially like it with Bren, the point you talked about where they're not overcomplicating things, and it's why they're better than a lot of these tier 2, tier 1.5 teams, because they also have something else going on for them in that they like to play Fracture. They like to play Fracture a lot during this, which is like kind of NA's been avoiding it comparatively to EU, I think. And on top of that, they're even thinking more about, when we think about a lot of teams, like, okay, we have a set play, but what's like the counter to what everyone else is going to be doing? Like, what's the counterplay of like when we expect someone to make aggression happening? A lot of these teams, I feel like on defense, they don't really think as much about, or even on someone being aggressive defense, they don't think about as much what's going to happen when they make this play here. How are we going to deal with this play? And I have an example, Kurt, where it's on Fracture again. I think it's like the second clip I gave you on, and they're going to clear, I think this is Rise going to clear halls. And LG just sets up a crossfire, expecting the boombot to come in, and they kill the boombot right before, and then left Tig in the corner, which is like a very classic Halls thing, right? You just use your raise, send a boombot down, like just use some utility to go be aggressive on the defense here. And like, sure, they end up getting traded out there, but then they go make it work elsewhere in the map. But I think they do things like this a lot, which is just, it's not overly complex, but they're actually thinking about, okay, what someone's going to do here on this play, and how are we going to react to it? Which is a little bit different than a lot of these other tier 2 teams, I think, are thinking.
I do, however, think that LG are probably going to be the weakest of all of the teams in the close.
You think so?
Yeah, that was my read on it.
All of the teams?
Yeah, out of all the teams that managed to qualify, I mean...
That qualified?
Yeah, you're talking about, are they going to be better than Knights or EG or Rise?
Guard.
Guard, yeah, those kind of teams. I think LG are currently, from my perspective, sat somewhere around the bottom. I think they're a little sloppier than some of the rest. I think they rely a bit more on Marta and B-Dog fragging out. I think the way that Tig has adjusted his playstyle, Tig actually used to be that mega ratty player like Moose is playing a bit like now. But, trying to do like the one way where he's sat inside his astral form and outplays people and comes behind them. Tig had a bunch of plays where he was like playing inside his smokes
like
constantly.
LCQ, doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Doing tons of that at LCQ. And now he's pushing up a lot on defense solo. So like if there's information on the other side of the map, he was doing it quite a lot on bind, where, if they push really aggro down B long, for example, he will solo walk up A short, which is like an adjustment that I think is going to get pretty heavily punished against some of these other teams. Feels a bit loose to me to have your Astra playing like that. I don't feel like that's a natural thing from Tig, from how I've seen him play in the past. Maybe it's because that's something the team feels is valuable for them, just being able to aggressively clear that area. Maybe they just think Tig's a good enough player to be able to find intuitively the timings to go for that stuff. Yeah. But the way that LG plays and some of the ways that they struggled to adapt against what Sonics were running, because they did make some decent adjustments, but when you contrast that to the other teams that qualified, they were of the caliber where I would expect them to kind of blow Sonics away, whereas LG fumbled it a few times and made it look wonky and ended up escaping that 3-map series. I don't see them being able to make it out of the groups. I feel like this is the weaker portion of the bracket.
I definitely see where you're coming from, but I think I have a bit more hope for them than maybe that comes from the fact that this next group stage is going to be 5 weeks, which is going to give them a solid amount of time as a new team, because I do feel like they, at least looking at the team that they put together on paper in the off season, I expected them to come out the gate stronger, but perhaps they just need a little bit more time, because I do think that they, even still just looking at the team on paper, the roster, have more to offer. So I do think they made good acquisitions. I think picking up B-Dog was a great choice. He's an excellent AWPer, good Jett, and then they needed a more aggressive duelist element, have Mata on that. I like the choices they made, and I think the players that they kept are also good. I like the roster and where it's at, and I think that they have more to offer. So I'm just going to hope that with more time and a long group stage, they realize that a bit more, because I was hoping for more straight out the gate, but perhaps that was just a bit greedy of me to expect as a viewer, that they would just be nasty right away, because I do like this team and I like who they have on it.
Yeah. They end up qualifying then in 11th/12th if we're talking about seeding heading into the closed groups. The other team who beat them earlier on, who qualified in 11th/10th, massively fall in the rankings compared to where we would have previously put them. It's Rise. They kind of fumbled their way through this bracket, making it there eventually, honestly, through quite a tough final bracket, considering there was like Akrew, BBG on that kind of side of things, though they didn't have to play both of them. Where's your confidence level at with this team? They would have previously been probably our 5th, maybe? Is that reasonable? 5th best team in North America out of LCQ?
Somewhere in the top, like
maybe
5, 6.
Fifth out of North American LCQ.
I'm not talking worldwide. I'm talking North American. Where would you have them in NA at the end of last year? I think 4 or 5, right?
Wow.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair after the LCQ performance.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, the most egregious would be like 6. I think would be the lowest you could have put them. But
yeah. They literally finished 4th, and then there's an argument to have them 5th if you believe that, actually 100 Thieves or Exit or something are better. But that's a massive drop from 4th, 5th to 11th, 12th in the next thing. And the manner in which they did it, fumbling so many massive leads and just getting blown out by teams like NRG. Do you think that this is a rough patch that they're getting through? Or is this now redefining LCQ as a blip? A blip of goodness.
Well, I don't know about that because I saw glimpses of the Rise LCQ form in their final match to qualify, which I can't remember what map it was. Let me look it up because
I have a clip right up. While you look it up, I have a clip to talk about how I think you're right, Brennon. That so on Bind, they played Bind and they were playing. I think it was versus LG, maybe I can't remember which team, but like they have a clip where they're taking control of showers, and I think it's this. Tell you, Kurt, it should be the 3rd Rise clip I sent you. And they have done they still have some crazy good moments here. I think like it still looks like LCQ Rise at points where you see how explosive they can be and how confident they can be, because like they'll have moments where they're seeing the position. Yeah, it was versus LG. So Moose pops the pit here in short. They come into showers. They immediately see the pit. Like then once it goes down, and they immediately just explode out of showers with an Astro Wall split triple. And just plant, and then they use the ult here as well. They just use the silver ult to just clear anyone close, and it's just a free plant. So I feel like there are moments where Rise will be explosive like this, and they'll have like really good ideas still, and use like all of their mechanics to just win fights still.
See, watching them, they felt. I relate very heavily to Rise during this open qualifier too, because they too were in a brain fog haze, and they had these moments of clarity where they could make good points. That's how I felt about them. Their final match against BBG on Ascent, they looked so uncreative, and it's disappointing because I think Rise have 2 kind of things that they lean back on, or 2 conditions that they need to perform well. One, Shanks is confident and hitting shots. That's number 1. If he's not, see you later. I mean, there's just not really much hope of them as a team. And the second one is their overall read of what's going on and how creative, if they can cook something up, their mid-round plays and their kind of macro understanding of a map as it's going on. Haven was when we saw the glimpses, in my opinion, the best glimpses of it, because we started to see them cooking up some stuff, and the mid-round adaptations were quite nice. A lot of opportunities for Rise on attack side on Haven for them to do that and kind of flex and lean into that. I mean, I imagine that's Poised as well, who's going to be taking the mantle in that regard. But if it is Poised, who has been calling for the majority of the time, that has just been lacking sometimes in just looking at their overall play, their read of what the state of a round is and how they're going to react to it and whatever play gets called. It hasn't really been consistent, which is the biggest problem for Rise. And they need to get back to that consistency. That LCQ form at the beginning of LCQ, NA LCQ, when we were watching them, they were so good at those mid-round adaptations and playing off each other and cooking up stuff on the fly. If they can get back to that, these guys could be demons in the groups. But I just haven't really seen it. The only hope I have is that they did actually manage to qualify, and they did come back off the back of it was the upper bracket game when Shanks just completely got flattened, right?
I mean, that was week 1. Yeah, week 1.
Was it week one?
He got flattened week 1. Yeah, he got destroyed.
I don't know. I'm holding out hope for this team. Because again, as we've already mentioned, lots of weeks in the group stage to be able to improve as a team, and they've showcased it before. But I hope it's not just a flash in the pan.
The BBG game was interesting on Haven. I mean, I feel like Poised as an IGL really enjoys playing Haven. It feels like a bit of a playground for him to run these like QB sneaks and the fakes, and Haven's a map where you can really try and pull the rotates to one side and get a site for free in a manner that you can't often on other maps. And I think it was kind of helped, though, by the fact that Bjorn plays TikTok setups. Because Bjorn on Ascent was doing some really nice stuff that was stuffing Rise by, he'd set up all of his utility together and it would burn them or delay them, and suddenly you've got a ton of information. Bjorn on Cypher here is playing like kill trips all over the place and not really playing informationally. And against a team that likes to run a very spread default and then try and pull rotates, then group up for an exec, that wasn't really finding the most efficacy. They ended up getting the A site for free on repeat. I'm concerned maybe that it's just a bit of a read on how Rise like to play the game that was working incredibly well at LCQ, and maybe in scrims people have really read into Poise IGLing with the ton of fakes that he likes to put in and that kind of stuff, and they've just lost confidence because it's not working anymore, their previous style. We've seen this happen with a bunch of other teams where they have a style, it works really well, then that style gets figured out and they're like, oh fuck, and they don't have that necessary next reinventation of their game plan, of their approach to how they play these maps. So I'm definitely concerned for Rise heading into closed. I think there needs to be a shift up in terms of their mentality and potentially the approach that they're going for in the game as well.
God, this was a very silly round. Yeah,
look at those
trip setup,
pure kill trips, and the little TikTok
Will
cages.
Is just unable to help from the cages, so he's just here and then gets one, but I think he just gets immediately traded.
Yeah. Those are the kind of rounds that I'm talking about where
just, this setup isn't really.
Yeah, the setup isn't good for what Rise like to do.
Not denying much.
Yeah. But there was actually a tweet from Derek afterwards that I wanted to talk about too, that I've sent over to you, Kurt, because he tweeted at the end of the BBG game, and he said, 2-1 over Built by Gamers. Wasn't as clean as we liked, but we got the job done. Time to prep up for closed and get back to form. Such a difference. This is the part that I want to focus on. Such a difference from us when we play to win instead of playing to not lose. Let's go. But
why you say it like goo?
Well, because it's got multiple O's, so it's pronounced goo. That's the way that the English language.
Oh, true. Yeah. So you're literally you are taking the literal pronunciation of it.
Yeah.
So then the LFG becomes let's fucking goo.
Yeah, exactly.
See,
what do you think about this statement from Derek? Do you think their read on things maps onto what you were seeing, watching them?
This is actually good because I had a point that I wanted to make, but I was like, that's just way too general and sounds like some pundit nonsense, so I'm not going to say it. But now that Derek has opened up the floodgates by using a coach quote, I feel like I can make the point that I intended on making, which was that in an extremely general view of all the games they played in week 1, I thought that there were many times where they just were not playing with a whole lot of confidence, and maybe it's because individually they were a bit off. So then in moments where they needed to play with confidence and take aggressive swings together, they just opted not to and played really safe setups instead, and then would try to go for, like a full play together. But in this second qualifier, I felt like even if they weren't playing well individually, there was an understanding from the team. We need to still play with confidence, like we are hitting our shots and like we are on point. And there were a lot more moments where there were fluid decisions or calls, like for players to swing, and then they would be there to assist each other. Like when a team on attack, like even in this game against BBG, like when BBG were on attack, if they were trying to plant the spike, Rise would be proactive in fighting them while they were planting. And very aggressive in those moments. Whereas in the first week, when moments like that came up, I felt like they took a more timid approach and kind of tried to wait it out and then make a slower team effort later, but it would just result in them playing too passively.
That's a moment there where they turn the round around. You know, things are going really terribly for them, and I feel like in the first qualifier, you'd maybe see them just panic, hold a crossfire, something like that. Neptune hits a perfect right-click flash with the KO that blinds a couple and gets it back into a 3v3. And I think they were able to muscle this round away. I think they won this.
They do, I think. I do believe they win this.
Either way, it's a good play, and it's that proactivity is the initiative.
Yeah, it was the proactive initiative play, which is, I think, I know it's like just general as shit pundit jargon, but like that is what I felt like in the general sense in the first qualifier. They just weren't doing very much at all. And it might just be because they were missing shots and that they feel like they would normally hit and they weren't as confident.
Do you think, Bren, Connor, do you think part of that is going to be the Rise story enclosed? Is Shanks, are Shanks and Neptune popping off? Is this giving them confidence? Therefore, they can win. Is it as simple as that, do you think?
Yes.
Bren says yes.
That's my takeaway. I mean, this team does, like I said, it's the two conditions they need to win matches. Shanks popping off and having confidence, playing with confidence, winning fights, winning duels, and them having a good read on their opponents and being able to make good mid-round adaptations. That was their bread and butter in NALCQ.
He is going to be up against Tens, Ye, Asuna, Cryocells, and then Penny,
like
B-Dog. Like, Shanks is an underdog in the large majority of... I mean, we're not talking about his specific group, but if you consider the teams that got in as a whole, he's the underdog in quite a lot of those matchups. That's a rough win condition if you rely on that to be a win factor for you to be able to take the map, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I mean, Shanks is also the quality of player where when he's playing at his best, he can go toe-to-toe with those players that you've mentioned. Some of them, yeah. Obviously in the case of players like Ye, Tens, Leaf, like, okay. I mean, those guys are like at the very best at their game, but it's just so clear to me. Like, watching their games, they can have as good as a read on an opponent as they can get, but if Shanks isn't feeling it and he's missing shots and he's actively not taking duels because of it or playing safe because of it, not making, as Derek said, playing not to lose instead of playing to win. If they're making those kind of plays because their confidence is low, that's the downfall of this team. I think they've realized that, though. Like you were saying, I mean, it seems that they've become aware of what caused them to lose in that fashion, and a big part of it is that confidence they were missing. So, we'll see.
We will certainly see. They're going to be an interesting team to follow. I'm always a fan of watching Derek and Superman. Now it's time for our regularly scheduled drama. But just before that, I'm going to pause for a moment.
Oh.
All right, we've had our pause, and now nothing happened for you. We're straight back into it. It's drama hour. Yeah, I was going to say week, but it's not.
Though.
You ate some cookies?
Yeah.
Girl Scout cookies are out right now. Girl Scout, if you want to get Girl Scout cookies, you can go get them. I got some.
Never had them. Apparently, some of them are goated.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of them are goated. Thin Mints, if you put Thin Mints in the freezer, my poop. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay.
Also, I'm pretty sure we have our corporate accountant in the next office over still doing stuff, and I just scream loudly.
Yeah, you Craig guys are very loud.
Maybe I'll try some.
Yeah. I can't believe you never had them.
Got it. You gotta try.
So what is the solution to TSM?
It's like watching Tenet. You have to watch it just for the culture, for the cultural reference.
You must eat Thin Mints for the culture.
This is a free plug for you, Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
After that,
okay. Yeah, they're quite a small struggling organization.
To sell them on a regular basis is like a alternate thing that they could do.
That's the solution for TSM. They need to sell Girl Scout cookies in order to afford better players. So the internet has been on fire. Obviously, TSM was the big talk last week because of the drama with T1. But also, TSM are just always the talk because they have a large fan base and they have a lot of people who thrive off the schadenfreude of watching them lose. So last time they end up going out somewhat early, not incredibly early, not like FaZe. This time they lose to Ghost Gaming in the upper bracket, which wasn't expected. You expect them to be able to get that win, I think. And then they squeaked past Complexity and lost to BBG. Overall, I want to start here. Is it an unexpected result for TSM to have not qualified? Does it justify the level of criticism?
I don't think it's unexpected nor expected. I feel like the expectation was, a realistic expectation would probably be for them to be on the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least
that was my takeaway for Open Call too. Was like I felt like there was the last. I made a statement. I was like, well, Rise will qualify, Akrew will qualify, and I can't remember what I said for the last two, but I think it was somewhere along the lines of. I think it could be many teams, you know, like it could be a whole bunch of different. I think there's a T1 as well.
Yeah,
and then the last one I was like, it could be anyone, because I felt like they all could have taken wins against each other on a given day.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They lost to Ghost, and in that game, I thought Ghost were playing pretty damn well. Also, they just had the Nismo in absolute demon mode, and Koala Noob was going off. I thought Ghost were playing pretty well. And then, what was the other one? They lost to BBG. I mean, this game, this was more rough. And these are two clips that I sent into Kurt that I think fully convey what I would like to get across about TSM. And two clips against BBG in back-to-back rounds. BBG are on attack on split. And in this round, they're in a post plan here, 4v3 on the B side. Aleko has his Viper's Pit. He's worried about a flank from mid, and there is someone flanking. The BBG Viper is coming through. And then you have Wardell on the retake playing Chamber coming in, 3v4, a tough situation, but they find the pick on the flank. They have good positions here on the site. Little pick for Rossi. Wardell's holding the angle, finds the second. And in a moment here, he clutches out, wins the round. There were a number of rounds throughout this tournament where Wardell was able to lock it up late round. This one, not an insane clutch, but it was a well-played 3v4 retake from TSM and a good clutch from Wardell. Winning that round put the economy in shambles for everyone. Both teams had one bye left. Please play the next round. Okay. Keep in mind, this is 2 rounds in one because both economies will break, whoever loses this round. Okay. Wardell has popped his ult. He has the sniper, and he's up in heaven. He finds the first opening pick. Pretty nice. And then they try and wall it off to get the res. He gets on top of the box. He knows the timing for the res. Gets another kill onto Will in the same round. So now they're in a 5v4. Rossi's holding down the side with the Bulldog. Goes 1-for-1. Wardell swings off it, gets another. They're in a 4v2. Wardell's getting shot. And then he peeks into the slow and dies. So now it's into a 3v2. And this is just a thing I just see with TSM over and over, where when they're forced to make decisions in situations like that, players just far too often opt for making the individual play. And they have the skill to make it really often. The problem is, though, the rounds like this, where they do it and then they die because of it, it offsets all the rounds that they win because they're very good, and they do win crazy clutches. But those crazy clutches don't matter when they make mistakes like the ones they're making in this round that are going to cause them to eventually lose it. And then now it's down into this 3v2. There's 15 seconds left. Corey is peeking from screens. He's about to hear them both drop down. He throws the nade, and then he fights it and loses to a running Spectre. Now, that's not Corey's fault for losing the fight. He's a great aimer. You're going to lose fights sometimes. Just don't take it. He knows they both drop down. He knows that it's going to be a 3v2 retake with both players on site. You still have a nade. Like, you can just play that out slowly and wait for your teammates. And it's 2 players on TSM doing effectively the same thing in this round that brings it into a 2v2. And now it's just a toss-up. And you can see Aleko drops down. Sabrosa tries to flash for him to take a peek. Sabrosa's still in heaven. He gets down into sight off the flash, gets the first duel, and now it's a 2v1. But the timing is broken, and Bjor is able to take 2 1v1s to win the round. And then off this, TSM's economy is broken, and they end up losing this map. And the main point of that, again, is that they just default to making these individually focused plays in times where they just don't need to, because their individual skill and their team play at times just generates them advantages on its own, but then they fall back to just trying to make another play and trying to make another play.
Yeah.
And they just don't need to. They have the skill and to win, but they just need to stop having that. It feels like just a bad habit.
What I think is the easiest solve for that too is it's still a decent idea to go for those playmaking things when you're not favored in the round. If you're looking for an advantage or you're down in that 3v4 retake, you got to do something. So they go for it. That's not even an individual play actually. They go all together. But they use their skill to be able to overcome that disadvantage. It's the advantage situations that piss me off watching TSM, because so much of the time they make the individual plays when all they need to do is hands off the keyboards, just chill, and they would win. And it's not just, I mean, you pointed out Wardell there. Wardell has also a ton of moments where he does incredibly well.
Yeah.
Sabrosa too, constantly doing that, always looking for the individual play. Now, I thought in this game, it actually got toned down quite a bit. Apparently, Sabrosa took over the IGLing, and in this qualifier, I thought Sabrosa was actually linking up with Corey and doing a lot more team play-based stuff, trying to set up Corey with the dog to be able to take a ramp control a lot of the time, or they were working together when they were playing on Ascent, I think it was, as well. And they just had some moments where I was like, okay, this I'm actually a fan of. This looks decent. They have some game plan here and some little, just Corey and Sabrosa working together to take an area of the map and using not just their skill, but their holding angles for each other and using utility for each other. That stuff looked good, but it's all just thrown away when they make these massive mistakes.
It's just one round like that, though, on the wrong round, that it just nullifies all of the good work that they'd done up till that point. Pretty frustrating just to watch. And, it's... I mean, I want to see TSM win games and qualify because they're an entertaining team. I would like to see more gameplay of them. And it does feel like they're pretty damn close to at least being
top 12
able to qualify.
I mean, this is top 12.
Absolutely.
They're not mad far away from that. They're certainly in the top 20. It's just, it's not even a big jump to go from top 20 to top 15, top 12, that kind of area where you're getting into these tournaments.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Wyatt, as well. Just especially with the examples you used, just really highlights as well just the unnecessary risks that they take. I think for me, when I look at the TSM as a team and the way they are set up, it's very clear as well the compositions, the situations they put themselves in. Wardell on Chamber. Wardell doesn't do the typical things that a lot of players on Chamber are currently doing in North America that we've seen. A lot of using your rendezvous, the TP, as like a contact play to set off, like, I don't know, one of your teammates using an ult to trap them, in a trap play. They think about it as just a way to completely enable Wardell and allow his opping to take over, which is fine. It's like one of the core things you want to build around with Wardell because his opping is so good that you want him to be able to get the ult often. You want him to be able to op. But their overall game plan feels like they're prioritizing the wrong things, and sometimes they just forget how important it is to just sync up your utility, play together, play off of one another. That's missing, and I think it just comes from just the mentality. Like they must go into games, and you have to go into games thinking, I'm going to be able to win every single gun duel, but not if that's the thing that, I don't know, you're counting on in and out every round. And I agree with your point as well, Josh. In this game where it looked like they were actually doing a much better job of setting up, like Sabrosa and Corey were playing together very often to take control of extremities, and that was good. But still, it just sneaks in. I think there needs to be just the whole general idea and structure of TSM as a team just needs to be chopped and changed. There needs to be something different instilled into them, I think, for them to be able to stop taking these risks during these rounds, throwing away advantages.
Well, their vice president of
plan, right? Yeah, Josh, you're about to talk.
No, you go for it, Avast. Tell us about I didn't find the tweet. I was going to send it to Kurt, but I can't even remember what the name of the guy was or his title in TSM. Do you remember?
He's the VP of Esports.
Oh.
So he's essentially just the head of their competitive esport operations for TSM, and he was just talking about like, hey, we kind of suck ass like right now. So like it's not up to our standards and as TSM's organization, so we're going to move everyone to Austin to a central location. And oh, there's the tweet. Yeah. And they've also essentially said the GM now has the ability to execute at will. He can just remove.
He has a license to kill.
Yeah, he has a license to kill essentially, which is, to be fair, I think it's kind of atrocious that your GM wouldn't have had that agency before, in my opinion. I think that speaks to me how early this game is and where the status of like TSM was in it, where a lot of the early esport titles is built upon big names for these initial rosters, and you're afraid to touch it. You don't want to shake the glass too much because the fish inside might get a little shaken up, and you don't want to like. But now you're like, okay, we've upgraded our biome and we have a huge tank. So if we shake it around a bit, it's fine. And GMs should be moving around roster pieces a lot, and they're moving everyone to Austin, and pretty much they're hoping to reset the culture of this team.
This transparency is fantastic in this post, by the way. Talking about it, I think it hits the nail on the head in terms of what TSM need to do moving forwards. Just, again, a complete reset on the culture is literally the exact words, which I think it's just showcased in all of their matches. Like you have to go into matches knowing that you're going to be able to win gun duels, knowing you're going to win fights. But I don't want it to be the core identity of the team. Is that is the thing that you are building around. That's the thing that you're relying on. It's not what makes the very best of the best in Valorant. You have to have that, but it needs to be. There needs to be more on top of it. Just the strats, how you're setting up all the players.
One of the other things that they mentioned too is they're planning to take part in all of the open tournaments now that they're out of VCT. They're not going to be playing in the rest of it, so they absolutely should be participating in all the open tournaments, which previously the TSM Academy team was doing, but not the main team, and it's been a major talking point around the community and Reddit and stuff like that, and I'm inclined to agree too that when you're a developing team like TSM, you do want to be playing as much as possible, get that match experience. I think the important thing here as well, there was a couple of different responses to this. Some of the fans were like, yeah, excellent, this is what we want. Some of the pro responses were, I remember there was a tweet from someone, can't remember exactly who it was, who I think quote tweeted that tweet and said something like, so we're not giving teams the time to improve anymore, are we? And while I understand that the first comment implies the GM has been given the decision to make roster changes, they're not saying they will make roster changes. Yeah. They're analyzing whether it's required. And I think that step is good. You do want to give... They've got all the time before stage 2.
It also sounds like a way to just instill the fear of God in everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean... more so than we're actually making changes, just you're...
It's not safe.
You're not safe. There's nothing keeping you safe right now because the results haven't been good enough.
And this this implies to me too that the organization has much higher expectations. That to me is a big crucial talking point whenever we're talking about like TSM, T1, FaZe. Does it matter to the organization if their team sucks, if they're popular? Everyone's talking about TSM. Do they care if their team sucks? If people are watching just to enjoy watching them lose, does it really matter? But it seems like, at least for TSM, it does matter. They hold themselves to higher standards, and they want at least to be getting into like a closed group system where you're constantly on camera all the time. You don't want to just have vacant gaps in your on-broadcast exposure like this.
Yeah. I definitely, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but even when this roster was being put together, all of the scrim bucks for the longest time was that this team was sick and that they were performing really well with these 5 players. That was the behind the scenes scrim bucks information. But that just leads me to believe that there has to be something going on. There's some kind of disconnect either between the scrims and the matches, or there's something in practice where they're just not practicing the right way, possibly.
I mean, they still play like it's scrims a lot. They still go for the we're up 4v5.
I mean, but maybe they're practicing the wrong way. They're doing that in scrims and it's working, but that's not going to work for the same efficiency as in matches. But I suppose I mentioned that to to make the broader point that I don't think there's definitely been a lot of focus and a lot of jokes and memery around them being like a stream team and streaming and stuff, and just the implication of that being that they don't care about winning or competing, which is just pure speculation. But what you can see for fact is that they're going about the winning in the server the wrong way. And that can be fixed. So, we'll see what happens. But
yeah. And unfortunately, there's going to be a drought in the TSM drama monthly updates because they're just not in VCT, so we're not going to be talking about them. So.
We'll be covering every Nerd Street weekly from here on out.
Just wait for them. They'll come back. They'll come back. And also wait for the next Steel post to be like, oh, remember when you guys weren't disciplined in CSGO? You got to wait for the nuggets to come out over time, and then you can feast on it like little hermit crabs. About.
Well, talking about Steel, his team thoroughly shit the bed in this qualifier, didn't they? So let's talk about some of the teams that didn't make it. We've got T1, Gen.G, Akrew. Those are some big names that didn't make it through. I don't think any of them were expecting Gen.G, but T1 and Akrew, I think most of us felt were likely to make it through. Akrew have been dominating the Tier 2 circuit and looked good in the first qualifier. T1 pretty firmly were dealing with everybody they met up, apart from... who did they meet in the upper bracket the first time around?
Virtuoso.
No, the first time around.
The first time around.
Yeah. I can't even remember.
Well, I don't know.
Who did they meet?
God, no.
Who did they lose to?
Let's find out.
It was Rise. Okay, so they lost to Rise, and then, they were going to beat TSM, thanks in part to David Denis, and then ended up losing, thanks entirely to David Denis. And then they come back into this week. Their opening match was a fairly close one against Exile Gaming in the round of 128, and then they lose to Virtuoso and Cosmic Divide. None of the matches are broadcast because people think they're just going to kind of walk over Virtuoso and Cosmic Divide. Are we witnessing a live assassination by Twitter? Did they just lose the will to live because they lost the Twitter war of 2022?
There must have been so much pressure on T1.
Look at this. They won 13-4.
There must have been so much pressure on T1 because everyone's looking at this and they're thinking, all eyes on T1, because everyone's talking up a big game on Twitter. I mean, largely as well, the T1 players, though, kind of, I want to say took a back seat to all of the drama and everything, but they really didn't. Like, some of them were like, Steel was fanning the flames actively. My man's just putting the new Dyson fan, fucking version 6, whatever the fuck it is, directly into the Twitter flames and just, it's going crazy. Like, they go into the open qualifiers too, and they just bottom out. And I cannot look at that in any other way, given what we saw in T1. I mean, I can't look at that any other way other than seeing it as the pressure getting to them, the expectations that they should qualify, and all the talk they were talking about. Oh, it wasn't a big deal that our coach was coming to us during the match. Well, that implies that either your coach wasn't doing a good job in the first place, that you were ignoring his feedback, or that you can do it without him. So do it without him, and they don't. Like, that's the pressure I think that they were feeling coming into that. They just flopped, man. I mean, it's. What do you say? We can't even talk about what went wrong for them.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't even get the games. We don't even get to see them.
We simply don't know.
No.
But it's not a good look, honestly. It's really not a good look, and I feel like the pressure had to have gone into them somewhat, because I just that roster, even in the depths of like old T1, I feel like probably would have made it past Cosmic Divide.
Yes. I think T1 from last week wouldn't have had a problem with either of those two teams. So I'm going to act like Reddit Randy for a sec. Well, of course they lost. They didn't have their 6th player. David Denis was IGLing for them. What's the response to that? What's the response to, of course they lost. They were cheating the first time. David Denis was just calling everything. They don't have their IGL. Kick W.
I find it unlikely that David Denis was pulling the strings of Steel's mind and vocal cords and has been directing his actual in-game leading, which I think just in some part failed in its own right this week. But again, do not know. We simply do not know for sure.
But it does just seem... obviously, the memes are going to be you can't win unless it's 6v5, the coach IGL, etc., etc. But aside from just being funny, I don't think there is much truth to the fact that Like, they can't win without David Denis in a literal sense of they didn't get the, like, positive, nice shot, help sewer. Like, I don't think that was the difference maker between them looking like they were going to beat TSM and losing to Cosmic Divide and Virtuoso. That, to me, David Denis does not have that much power upon how T1 perform, even if he's typing stuff to them in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, the initial speculative thought just leads you to believe that it's a situation where there's just maybe too much pressure on some of the newer faces on the team to perform after a week of chaos and, endless tweeting and the thoughts that play in the back of your mind when you're trying to play the game of, what people are going to say later and all that type thing.
Yeah.
I could certainly see that being a thing, but maybe not. I don't know.
Who knows? Let's talk about a different team then. Akrew. Gen.G, I don't even know what to say.
I don't even know. I don't really know what to say either. I just think that it's kind of sad that we don't have anything to say and that they went out so early. I mean, I was interested. I thought the Rhyme pickup was cool and Rhyme was playing well individually, I guess, but
why'd they play on Duelist? Part of what I loved about Rhyme was that he filled a bunch of different roles in Europe. You could pick up a crack Duelist. They're all over the place in North America.
Yeah, it was just...
I don't get it. Blur.
Yeah, I mean, they just...
All right.
They didn't even spill their spaghetti. The spaghetti just kind of like slowly seeped out of the pockets into a pool on the floor.
Yeah.
It was just... Yeah.
Okay, Akrew, though.
I expect more from my generation gamers.
Yeah, generation gamers not looking good. Akrew, they did look good first time around. Akrew. We thought they were kind of locks to make it through. Their consistency, they looked good the week before. They should be able to make top 4 in a bracket like this. They've been doing it constantly for months. They've been making top placements in all of the Tier 2 tournaments. And that's what this is. This is a Tier 2 tournament. Unfortunately, they didn't quite make it. So looking at the upper bracket, they ended up running into Sonics and lost 2-0 to Sonics, which I think is much more surprising than them ending up losing to BBG. I think BBG played pretty damn well. I was most surprised by this result. What do you think went wrong with Akrew not being able to get through this week?
One thing that definitely... I'm going to just throw one quick point out there. Sorry, Bren, and then you can go ahead, which is they didn't get to play Fracture anymore. That definitely hurt them. But go on, Bren.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely probably would have hurted them. It felt like possibly just an experience diff. Like, this is a young team that's been put together, that's going through and winning a lot of the Tier 2 tournaments. But this is the thing that when you're a young team, you don't have that experience playing in the real tournaments that matter. This is the qualifier, This is the thing that essentially is going to set your career up for the start of 2022. And it felt like, I think the decision making, the overall decision making, especially in the lower bracket game, when I was watching it, felt like sometimes it was just missing. It wasn't quite the same level in terms of just the mid round adaptations and calls that were being made. But the team has a ton of potential still, I will say. I thought they were going to make it through as a lock because they have a lot of cool stuff that they try. They have cool compositions on specific maps. And in general, they're all mechanically skilled enough as well that when it doesn't quite go the way they were expecting with their set plan at the beginning of a round, they can bail themselves out with that skill. This low bracket game, they ended up losing the second map, I think, in OT, right? An absolute heartbreaker. I think it was 14-12. And the third map would have been Haven, which I think is one of their best maps outside of, when they pull out the pocket fracture pick or whatever. So if they managed to squeak out that win in that final moment where the pressure was highest against BBG, I think they could have had a shot of actually making it past this part of the lower bracket. But for me, it felt like that experience diff that you're only going to get by playing the game as a team together better and learning from this loss. If it's not there, it's not there. The players, I think, are relatively young when it comes to playing in these very high pressure matches.
Yeah, I
tend to
that could be there. I think that could be fair. I mean, yeah, it was a similar point I was going to make. That is, again, it's a little speculative, but yeah, I was betting on Akrew's consistency over the past several months to continue into this qualifier, and yeah, perhaps to some extent the reality of them no longer being a like a tier 2 underdog team that just started, that had been on a run winning everything, and now they're a favorite, and sort of the pressure and community expectation perhaps affecting them a little bit. I do think the fracture thing probably affected them the most.
I put a tweet in as well.
Who is this from? Oh, from Com.
Com's the one who's, I think, IGLing for them and coming for them a lot of the time. Yeah. But it did highlight to me that these guys need more of these reps in these high pressure matches. You know what I mean? You can see how much it meant to them, right? He's saying he hasn't cried after a loss in forever, but this one he did. How much it meant to. I mean, I think that tweet just there really does distill how much it probably meant to all of them outside of the tier 2 tournaments. The tier 2 tournaments they're playing in, they're pounding in. That is just the legwork. That's the journey to get to essentially VCT, to really perform on the big stage for these guys. And that's why I say, it's the experience performing in those high pressure matches. Because I think it's showcased in their just general decision making, on the fly decision making, which crumbles often if you're feeling the pressure in that fashion. You could see that watching the match. But yeah, also this tweet from Com. I mean, yeah, I think Akrew as a team though, these guys have good potential, like really good potential, and losses are the best thing to learn from as a team.
Well, let's take a look at the actual groups. So we have group stage predictions. Now, the groups are not on any of the websites or anything. They got reported on .esports, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, I just want to point out, actually, Valorant A just put out the broadcast schedule with the teams. Actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
can we?
I'll put it in the Valorant channel right now.
Yeah.
But
Do we know the
just
matches
put out
for this
the broadcast
weekend?
schedule. It's all the way from. It's actually for the entire event.
Oh.
It's all 5 weeks.
Cool. Okay,
wow.
so the groups.
So we can preview week 1 match. Okay, cool.
Well, let's do that then. Let's do that.
Very convenient.
Wasn't intended to do it, but let's have a look. If we can find our way through the official website and see if we can get to the groups and stuff.
Qualified teams.
Okay, yeah.
There they are.
Well, the thing is, I was looking through the article and I didn't see, but they list the broadcasts, but they don't necessarily list the groups. But they do have, here's the games. So.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all good. I mean, we can give our preds for the week 1 matches though. First match, Cloud9.
Cloud9 100 Thieves. My God, they're starting with a bit of a banger, honestly, because I don't know where 100 Thieves are going to be at, but playing immediately against Cloud9 is not a good position to be in if you're that squad. I mean, you're hoping to get the lower level teams at the start of your schedule, rack up some easy wins, learn as a team, develop, see, how all the pieces fit together, and give Eccles more experience playing in matches in North America. And they're just immediately getting put up against what could be the best team in North America, judging by Champions' performance. That's brutal.
That's rough. That is rough. They've been pushed into the deep end, and I don't think they will be Michael Phelps swimming out of it. I think they will be struggling to stay afloat against Cloud9, to be honest. I don't see them winning that game. I think Cloud9 are just going to... I think Cloud9 are the favorite team of all the teams right now. If I were to put my money on any team, it would be Cloud9.
To be the top of that group?
Yes.
It does better saying as well.
To be the top of either group against any of the teams right now. Cloud9 are just my favorite team for right now.
We did talk about that quite a bit coming out of Champions, that we thought Cloud9 had the best kind of footing to head into 2022 on. But there have been a number of weeks, number of months, in fact, since we've seen them play. So there's always a bit of cloudiness around these teams that got invited. But they do have a very solid footing and nasty good players, and were great towards the end of last year. I don't see 100 Thieves being able to beat that. What about the next one? Version 1 against Knights.
Version 1 looked good. If they keep forwards their form out of the open quals, I mean, I can't really see Knights taking this win. But Version 1, man, that's a team that will get you excited again. If Penny's keeping up the form that they had, I don't know. And I mean, it's Xander that came in for this team, right? And they just look so...
They also look really good in the NSG winter championship stuff. So they are playing, you've seen a couple different examples now of them looking pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So I think they're pretty heavily favored versus Knights.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you think day one is just going to be a role and then another role?
It might be.
It could be, right? Could be.
Yeah. It really might be.
If 100 Thieves don't step up.
I think if 100 Thieves play the wrong maps against Cloud9, they might just get washed. If 100 Thieves get trapped in the Asuna Jett paradox, I think they might get washed on maps where he has to Jett against Leaf. I see that as a large issue for this iteration of 100 Thieves, that they will simply never have Asuna on his greatest roles. Unless he is massively leveled up his Jett. And the thing is, he's a really good Jett, but it's like, do you have a really good Jett, or do you have the best Reyna flex in NA potentially, or just like a top 6 Jett versus Leaf, who's probably the best Jett coming into this tournament?
Hot take.
Is that hot? I think that's very, I left my tea out for too long take. I think it's room temperature.
Well, it's a bit of a room temperature. It's not scalding hot, but I think, there's still Tens and Ye in the conversation who've both been nasty good at Jett, even when their teams didn't perform that well. Anyway, let's talk about day 2. Day 2's got Sentinels playing against NRG. If we're talking about Tens, recently moved to LA, said he's going to be playing on 50, 60 ping. Sentinels haven't been scrimming. They only started scrimming last week. How much
Is that actually true?
Yes,
I just making sure.
No. All of that's true.
Are you being Reddit Randy?
No, I'm not being a Reddit Randy. So Tens on stream said that he's had to move to LA. I think because Kaidi wanted to move to LA, so Tens went with her.
Yeah.
And Tens is going to be playing with high ping. That's not necessarily a problem. Tens himself has spoken about how he doesn't like playing on high ping before, but he's done it and performed really well. So probably not too much of an issue. But Sentinels have not been scrimming for the longest time. They've talked about it on stream. Other pros have talked about it too. Yeah. And they only started scrimming again, I think they said, like last week. So they've had like max 2 weeks lead up into this in terms of scrim time, when other teams will have been playing for a bunch of time. Finally got PC set up, he's tweeted, on January 29th, which was just over a week ago, 10 days ago. So, if they started scrimming then, they've got about 14 days of scrims.
I mean, I was just getting distracted by that text.
These are some very specific accounts. Extremely specific.
Yeah.
I was getting very distracted by that text.
How much do you guys buy into the Sentinels look like they're going to fall off or something?
I still think they're going to be really good. What I want to see from Sentinels, and I'm going to tell you right now, is I want to see Sick playing KO, Jett, Tens playing Jett, and the rest doing
the standard,
the standard that they've been doing. That's what I want to see.
Sentinels are not going to fall off so much in my mind that they're going to be a team that doesn't make it out of groups, or is going to be having close games against some of the weaker teams in their group. This first match, I think, is going to be a really interesting one, though, because NRG is a team with a lot of firepower. I mean, how many times do we use the word firepower and describe an NRG? It feels like every fucking time we're talking about firepower of NRG, but it's true. And these guys, they're not afraid to lean into it, and they're not afraid to set up their players that that really do perform, like Som. I'm curious how this is going to match up against Sentinels, because I feel like you're not going to lose the fundamentals of a bit of a break from the game. You're not going to lose that chemistry. You're still going to be performing at a really high level mechanically. But the thing that's probably going to be lacking a little bit comes down to like server time, I guess. If you're not spending, if you've only got a short amount of time before you're jumping into groups, it's probably going to be the prep beforehand, the kind of set plays and stuff that you might want to prep beforehand. So I'm kind of leaning towards this might be a better matchup for them playing against NRG. It's not the best matchup, but I feel like if it does come down to just mechanics, just clicking heads, you know what I mean? Sentinels are one of the teams that can go toe-to-toe with a team like NRG, for sure.
They actually enjoy playing against teams like that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like considering their matches against FaZe in the past and that kind of stuff, they've been good at being able to deal with teams that rely on it. I think this new version of NRG is a bit smarter than the previous ones, but still, if this was, let's say this was version 1 playing against Sentinels, second day, then I'm starting to think, okay, version 1 could actually get that upset result because of the other factors involved. When it's NRG, I'm on board with you guys where you're saying that I think they'll have fallen a bit, but not to the level where they're going to get upset here.
I think NRG can push them, though. I like the comps that NRG run. I think the Tex KO has been really good. I think that the map pool is going to be relatively similar. Like, unfortunately for NRG, they're going to want to play Breeze, and Sentinels are also fine with playing Breeze.
Yeah.
Maybe more than fine, because every time TenZ plays that map, he drops 50. So if they end up playing Breeze, they might just lose their pick because TenZ just does his thing on Jett that he always seems to do on that map.
You know, the other thing too, a lot of these North American teams who came through the qualifier are avoiding Fracture. And the teams that got invited, specifically Sentinels and Cloud9, I'm thinking about here, actually enjoyed playing Fracture, even at Champions against the best teams in the world. So, yeah, sure, Sentinels haven't scrimmed it a huge amount since then, but even just going on what they were doing at Champions, they'd be able to beat almost every other team in North America on Fracture. So that adds a massive map pool advantage when they play against most of these teams, I feel. Next game is the Guard against LG. Now, I already said my hot take that I thought LG was going to be the weakest, so, you know, I'm favoring the Guard in this matchup. Where are all your heads at in terms of this one? Because this is our first match where it feels very competitive between both teams here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when I've watched how Guard's been playing recently, I personally feel like Guard looks a bit more coordinated than LG across the board right now. I think their firepower is like roughly similar at times. I do think like Mata has like insane pop-off. Mata and B-Dog both have insane pop-off potential, but I actually do agree with you in that it's not that I think LG might be the weakest, it's more so I favor the Guard because I feel like LG looks pretty scrappy comparatively to the Guard, I think, when I think about their past performances.
I'm having a tough time choosing on this one. I was very impressed by the Guard. I think that they're very good, but I do think that LG I really think that LG are a team that could be better than what we saw in the qualifier. Looking at the teams that we saw in the qualifier that made it in either, I think that they're definitely up there with ones that I think that could just be way better. Which is making me kind of want to go towards LG, even though I think Guard are a safe and sound, very reasonable pick to take in this match. It's tough, though. I think this one is really close, but I think I would take LG, honestly. Almost. Okay. But I'm getting into my like underdog prediction brain, though, where I'm like thinking about the fake odds that are being given, where I think the Guard would just be heavily favored.
Really? Do you think heavily favored? I feel like odds for this game would be more like,
I think so,
55 at kind of max.
Maybe.
I think a lot of people expect...
Maybe people will just sleep on the Guard. The general public might snooze on them.
I think it's just a tier 2 wash. I think a lot of people think a lot of those tier 2 teams, it's any given Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
The results of those kind of games.
That's fair.
I feel like the Guard have a better structure, kind of thinking about Avast, which is why I feel like they're going to do better as the tournament goes on compared to somebody like LG. But there is a reasonable any given Sunday feeling to these tier 2 tournaments or like the qualifying portions.
God, it's tough. I think the Guard they're a safe, reliable, solid pick in that game. So
I'd lean towards the Guard. They're a team that's been making rapid improvements in a short amount of time, and they've got a long group stage. You know, it's and this first match against LG, feels a little bit like any given Sunday, but I'm still slightly leaning towards the Guard. I'm not gonna say that they're heavy favorites, but yeah.
All right, last two games on the third day of the week, right? So this is the Sunday games, February 14th. We have Envy Rise. On paper, you're like, oh, cool. And then actually you remember how Rise have been playing, and you're like, oh, maybe not very cool.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are there Rise believers? Are there Envy believers? Because, I mean, there were a lot of questions about Envy at Champions. Victor had COVID. There were a lot of thoughts at the time. Oh, I don't think he's actually that ill. After the fact, it comes out he actually did feel pretty sick. So I've been giving them quite a lot of bail for that and thinking, all right, we're probably going to see a much better Envy than we saw at Champions. They're not going to get, beaten by an X10 level team again. Where are your heads at with this? There's a lot of people predicting the fall off of Envy for some reason.
Yeah, I'm in that camp. I'm feeling my hot take for this is 100 Thieves and Envy don't make it out of their groups. That's
a scorcher.
That's a
That's what we're looking forward.
I don't know if we'll get started early with this Rise with the game against Rise, because I've got a glimmer of hope that Rise could return to NALCQ form if we see that team come back into it and we see the same Envy that, yes, Victor had COVID. you have to throw them, you have to throw them a bone in terms of that, where the team wasn't performing in the best conditions. Like the surrounding environment wasn't the best for it. But even still, I don't know, something about it, just the severe drop off in performance of our expectations, the over reliance on Ye as a player. It's scary, treacherous ground, I think, for Envy when I last saw them. But the thing is, me saying this, we haven't seen Envy in ages. We haven't seen them in ages. We don't know where they're going to be at in terms of the form. Where we do know where Rise is looking incredibly inconsistent. So I would still go for Envy winning this. I feel I would still lean Envy, but I've already dished out my hot take that I don't think. Yeah. I think they might end up going out of groups.
By the way, just to put into context how hot that take is, Envy have to finish bottom 2 in their group in order for Bren's take to be true, which means that the only one of these teams could be worse than them. So NRG, Knights, Rise. 2 of those teams have to be better than Envy, and Sentinels of version 1 have to be better than Envy. But Envy have to be performing worse than 2 of Knights, NRG, and Rise. And if they win against Rise here, I mean, who are they performing worse than? It's a scorcher. You've come out with a scorcher.
It's a silly champ take. I like to.
No.
I'm throwing it out there. But
stand on it. I like it.
Stand by it or stand on it.
Stand on it.
Stand on the
take.
Stand
on your take.
It seems outlandish to say out loud. What you're expecting the team with Ye on it to underperform and not get through the groups, but I feel like there's a possibility off the back of it. I really do.
I don't think, and I don't know. I'm not feeling like Envy are gonna. I don't know. It's a thing where the last time you saw them, they're champions. So I'm not feeling like they're gonna come into the group and just light everyone on fire and make it through with ease in first place. But I think that they're gonna win against Rise in pretty easy fashion.
Okay.
I think it would. I'm not sure what circumstances would be required in 1 week time for Rise to be able to beat Envy.
A direct trade of Shanks and Ye. That's what would be required.
A direct trade. Yeah, I mean, I think if Rise had looked really good coming out of the quals, then I could maybe be like, okay, I favor Rise here. But they just didn't look that good coming out of the quals. So it's hard for me to like make that argument. Though I do think for having Shanks play a lot more chamber as opposed to Jett, I actually kind of like that particular agent for Shanks a lot because it gives him a lot of opportunities like the Headhunter to play aggressive and look for kills a lot more than you could with Jett on like eco rounds, things like that. So there are some cool things with the chamber pick specifically that I think is nice to help give Shanks confidence back to have like an agent like chamber to play. But overall, I think Envy should be favored.
The final match then of week 1 is Exet playing against EG. Exet looked really good when they went through the bracket. They dropped 1 map, I think, to Radiance, but ended up getting rid of NRG and Guard and qualifying through the upper in the first time around. Cryocells just dunking on people. Exet actually lost a BO1 in the NSG winter tournament, though, didn't they, as well? To somebody, to Team Reformed, was that or something? I thought they lost a BO1. Maybe I'm thinking of a different team.
I think they lost the map in the BO3.
Oh, they lost the first map of the BO3, right? That's what it was. Yeah. So nothing is free. Nothing too drastic. What do you think about the EG chances here? Are they just going to get curb stomped by Cryo?
I don't even know what the EG group is, but I think they're going to make it out of it.
Okay, well,
but I don't think they're going to beat Exet.
To tell you what group EG are in, right? I'm ranking them in the list that I would probably rate these teams: C9, Exet, 100 Thieves, Guard, LG. So in order for
they're making it up.
EG to qualify, they have to be better than, LG and the Guard, probably. Or maybe LG and 100 Thieves if 100 Thieves completely flop. But surely a team with Ethan and Asuna on it can get out of a group like that, right? Clueless, right?
Yeah. You would think. I really have a lot of confidence in EG. I don't think they're going to beat Exet, though. I think Exet are going to get out of this group in the top 2. But I do think EG will be able to make it out somewhere in the 4.
Okay.
That's pretty high.
Overall, what's the match of the week? It's probably Guard LG, is it?
Yeah,
could Sentinels NRG be a banger?
Cloud 900 Thieves is like, I don't know.
Should be the match of the week.
It should be the match of the week, and it'll be extremely interesting to see what happens no matter what happens.
Dude, if it's a banger,
that would be great.
That could potentially turn our entire expectations of 100 Thieves around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, if Rise shows up as in good form, I think the Envy Rise game could be good. Like, if we got, like, LCQ Rise, that could be a good match.
Yep.
So,
keep sniffing the drugs.
I'm just saying, it could be a good match if we got, like, a peak form Rise. I'm not saying it's going to happen, though. I don't think it's going to be the case.
Yeah. Not the craziest games for week 1, though. Certainly not the craziest.
We need to see him heat up.
Intriguing ones.
We need to see him heat up a little bit. Okay, I think we end this week by doing NA power rankings. Just a quick blast through. We've already talked through most of how we think about these teams, but just an overall power rankings of these teams. I don't want this segment to last too long, but just some thoughts about the teams that we haven't discussed too much, and then looking at it to overall predict who we would expect to get through the groups and stuff. So, Lord knows when this was from. I don't know, not a clue.
I think after Champions.
It can't be after Champions because we've got Sentinels number 1.
It would definitely. I think this is before Champions.
This is North America, no?
Yeah,
we definitely did a power rankings of
did we?
NA. Yeah, I think I was on the episode.
Maybe. Kurt says maybe he didn't save it. So
Lord knows. That's all I know is I would put Cloud9 at 1 right now.
Okay. And listen, I'm not mad with that. They had the deepest Champions run. I think they have the best roster for the future. Let's put it like that. I'm though willing to give Envy the benefit of the doubt for their poor Champions performance because of Victor's illness. That's my opinion, that I feel, especially considering the stuff around Sentinels not scrimming, etc. I'd be more inclined to put Envy at number 2 heading into the beginning of this tournament, because they finished in roughly equivalent positions at Champions. Envy did much better at Masters 3. Envy also, Victor had COVID at Champions, and they finished in the same kind of spot as Sentinels. I would want them number 2 personally.
Oh man, it's a tough one. It's tough because I think about the champs performances with Envy and Sentinels, and
neither of them were amazing. I would say actually the Sentinels were the better team at Champions, but they still reached the same level in the tournament. And like I said,
think they had
one of the players had COVID.
Yeah, I think they had a harder matchup though, and they looked like the better team. And yeah, you're right, one of the players did have COVID, but I would be way more comfortable with Sentinels at number 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna bandwagon that. I'm putting Sentinels for number 2.
I
agree.
You on board?
I think you make some fair points, Josh, but I'm gonna put Sentinels at 2.
All right, no problem with that. Okay.
I mean, my take now would be Exet over Envy.
Oh my Lord Almighty! They haven't beaten.
Dude, you've always been a huge Exet simp.
Yeah, I have.
This is just off raw belief, Josh. This is just.
No,
just
because
pure faith.
I haven't seen Envy, but I have seen Exet. I know what my eyes can see with Exet, and as a team, they look good. They got Cryo coming in, which is one of those players that they can lean on and Jett. They haven't been able to have that before, and they've still got the same structure and discipline that they've always had, which makes top teams the greatest teams. I think Exet have a real shot here at now finally breaking into that top 4 of NA that they were grasping at in 2021.
See, I agree with you that they do have that shot of doing it. But until I see the evidence of them playing against any tier 1 opposition, I'm loath to just go on faith. You know, we've seen this Envy squad make a finals worldwide, number 2 team in the world. And then we've seen them be good both before and, well, maybe not afterwards, actually, because that would be Champions and they didn't look that great. But we've seen them be good before, and we know that this team is solid. We know all of the players are really fucking good. I think Exet have got to prove it, personally. Even though Exet might be number 3, hell, Exet could be number 2. You still got to prove it.
Are Exet in the... I wish there was...
Yeah, I think... I
can tell you. I can tell you.
I'm fine with keeping Envy at 3.
Exet are in the group with Cloud9. So it seems quite likely to me that Exet will finish probably second in their group, because the other competition would be 100 Thieves. And I think the 100 Thieves squad does not look like it's made improvements on the last one, whereas Exet do massively. So I think Exet are going to look great coming out of the group stage because their competition isn't as tough. as Envy, for example, who will have to play against Sentinels and version 1, who I both think are pretty fucking good teams. And then Exet are going to look better, but unless Exet go like toe-to-toe with Cloud9 and beat everybody else, I don't know. What are you two thinking? You're going to turn it here?
I would still put Envy there, though I think Exet would be my next.
Yes. I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think that's extremely fair, is Envy then Exet.
All right, Bren's hot take of Envy getting grouped is either going to be phenomenal prophecy or
I've had my hot takes backfire in the past. Well, no, not really backfire. I mean, Leaf as top 4, people were laughing at, but I mean, you finished deeper than Tens and Envy and Tens and Yay.
Okay, so after Exet, I'm looking 100% at version 1. And in fact, I'm even thinking version 1 above Exet. I'm not going crazy yet. I mean, I don't think that's even crazy, to be honest.
I don't think that's crazy.
Because version 1 of literally just clean swept the qualifier, didn't drop a map the entire time. Xander's edition is fucking phenomenal to version 1, in my opinion. But here's my issue. I still don't really believe in Penny. And I need just more consistent performances from Penny for me to get that back down there. Do not put TSM in the 5th position. Kurt, the rogue element, wants to actually turn this into the TSM podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hold the same opinion as you, Josh. I need to see more. I need to see if Penny's going to be performing at that Penny level.
But the problem is like, who would you
Penny.
replace them that has like any sort of history of consistency from these rosters, right? Because all these rosters are pretty...
I'm not saying replace them. I'm just saying they need to keep playing
just in general.
Up to the form that they were in the open quals.
Yeah, open quals in Reykjavik, Penny was pounded.
Yeah. The
rest of the time, he just fell off massively towards the end of the year, and it hurt them so much. And I love everything that version 1 have been doing. The IGL in Xander's performance on an individual basis, I think, is just through the roof. I think there's actually a chance that version 1 could finish top of their group above Sentinels and Envy.
I think that's
depending on whether they meet them at the right times in the schedule.
I'm very okay with version 1 and 5th, though. That's fine by me. Good with everyone. I think after this, now I'd put 100 Thieves.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I just believe in Ethan and Asuna. They are great players.
And if Baby J is playing...
Baby J is great too.
If Baby J is playing at the level we saw from LCQ, he should be one of the best Sentinels in the event. There's definitely a lot of question marks, and I don't think that it's... I just keep always going back to the roles when I'm thinking about 100 Thieves, because I think it's just so... Like, you have Asuna, a really good Jett, who's like a top 6, top 8 Jett, something like that. Or he could be the best flex in NA. Speaking of flex.
Yeah.
Or he could be the best flex in NA, you know? So it's just, it doesn't feel optimized to me. But
the hype around Ethan is huge from the off-season watching his stream.
Ethan is nasty, but also what is he going to be playing? Is he going to be playing KO?
Role, I would imagine. Yeah.
I would love to see some Ethan KO. I think that'd be pretty nasty, because I think this roster is going to need players to be getting kills, because the discrepancy between Asuna's stats on Jett and when he's playing Raze Reyna are fucking absurd.
Yeah.
He has like 169 ADR on Raze Reyna and like 139 on Jett.
Yeah.
That it's bonkers.
His first kills, his first deaths also go up enormously when he plays Jett as well. He still gets a lot of first kills, but the like ratio of first kill to first death is essentially 1.
Yeah.
The guy doesn't. He just gets punished a ton.
He's really good, but he is really good on Jett. But it's just, dude, he's doing 169 ADR on Flex. For the love of God, I mean, you just need the dude on that roll. But I think the rest of the roster, though, especially on maps where he's going to be playing Jett, they need to frag out. So I think you need Ethan to be playing KO.
Because otherwise it's Eccles and Hiko. And they're not going to be getting you proactive kills.
You're going to need Baby J to be playing like how he does when Baby Bay was telling him to just go run it down. Yeah. And where he would just peek halls or like cave on Breeze and just kill 3 people. But genuinely, I think they need him to be doing shit like that, because I think you need players to get kills, because I don't think Eccles is going to be bringing home the bacon, and I don't think Hiko is going to be doing much fragging until the end of the round. So I think you need the other guys to be in position to be really popping off. But they are still definitely good enough to be able to, they should be qualifying, and they should be able to beat all of the open stage qualified teams in their group, I think.
Well, now we get to the open stage qualified teams then. If we're all happy with 100 Thieves at 6th, then the question becomes, I mean, the other teams that have qualified are, that Kurt doesn't have up there, are NRG, Knights, EG. We can drag Gen.G away because they're miles out of the conversation.
Yeah, EvilGeniuses.
And then, EvilGeniuses.
And then Luminosity. Yeah.
Yeah, and LG's already
so,
up there.
What are we thinking here? I mean, I think this is where the conversation starts to get tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think out of all the teams listed here so far, out of the one that has looked the least sloppy with a solid amount of firepower to me is like the Guard, honestly.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Guard or NRG personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously there's always the potential for the Rise resurgence, but their qualification was so sloppy that it's severely hampered my belief in them. And I think, especially if we're considering this power rankings over the course of the whole tournament, which is going to be lasting a significant period of time, I start to lean more towards the Guard than NRG, just because I believe in the MCE's coaching structure and the development of newer players like Trent. And the more that Valin learns about IGLing against these top teams, the better they'll end up being. So even though I think there's probably a pretty big tier gap between, I mean, presumably between 6 and 7, depending on how 100 Thieves look, I might be leaning Guard there.
If it's long term, I'm with Guard. If it's not, I'm with NRG. But if it is long term, I'm thinking the Guard and then NRG right after that point, because I think NRG to have the God, I want to use something that's not as cliche as firepower to describe them, but it's not even just that. It's like they don't overcomplicate stuff because they know that they can play around some of their players who are popping off, and they set up their players to succeed with flashes or whatever, just a little pop play that can really just catch some of the other teams off guard.
See, now I'm thinking though too, long term, Rise are probably either going to collapse or get their shit together. I feel like they're on the knife's edge between being completely out of it and just imploding and getting back to where they were. If you've had success before and then you're struggling in mediocrity, it makes or breaks you, your response to that. And so if we're thinking about this power ranking as being the whole group stage, I guess the question is, do you believe in them getting their shit together? Because if not, they might not even make it through.
Yeah, that is the big thing here. Well, I mean, I personally, I think if we look at the teams that I kind of value consistency pretty heavily, but Rise has such a heavy peak that I'm willing to still bet on Rise and put them below NRG. That's how I feel.
I want to put EG here, personally.
Oh, this is where you want to put EG.
I would want to put EG here. And I wish there was a graphic for these groups that I could have looked at once and had in my brain. Because it's driving me crazy. Which group were NRG in the Guard in?
NRG is not in the same group as the Guard. So the Guard is in, I'm just going to talk about the teams that are around the same level as them. The Guard are in a group with LG and EG. Right? So EvilGeniuses and the Guard are directly fighting for a qualification spot if we assume that LG don't get it. On the other side of things, NRG are fighting with Rise and Knights. So in your head, it's NRG and Rise, basically, if you're thinking about where they're going to go, and it's Guard and EG. So
in my world, I think that NRG and EG are the teams to come out on top of those little trifectas.
Yeah.
But I understand wanting to put the Guard above. And I don't think that EG are like a certainty a mile beyond where the Guard are at. I was just extremely impressed with EG. And I think that if they play a head-to-head matchup, certainly like within the first week or two, personally, I would go towards EG. Which leads me to want to put EG and NRG as the two teams at the top of the open qualified teams. But I'm okay with the Guard being there and then NRG after, or NRG being 7th and the Guard being after, because I do think though that NRG have more potential to maybe beat one of the other. Well, maybe they don't because they're in the group with fucking not 100 Thieves. Like, I think if NRG played against 100 Thieves, they could maybe beat them.
Yeah, they're playing against Sentinels Envy version 1, so that's actually really tough. NRG's
I mean, maybe they could beat Envy.
That also means it's tough for Rise too, you know? Like, NRG and Rise are in the same kind of pool where you don't expect them, based on current form, to be beating those 3 teams.
Yeah.
And so they're just stuck. That trifecta of NRG, Knights, and Rise are playing each other for the points, basically.
I would be happy with Rise at 9 and then EG at 10.
Oh, that kills me. I think EG looked so much better. They beat them.
I know.
Yeah,
but the anticipation of their form being better and improving over the group stage.
I'm just thinking that Rise are going to they're going to fucking 100 emoji. The stakes are on.
Well, they underperform when pressure's on.
No, I believe.
This is unbelievable, Josh.
There is some.
I think when you get
sleeping on your boy Dre.
Yeah,
it's outlandish.
The thing is, though,
they stay
I'm not saying EG shouldn't be in the top 10. I'm not sure if they should be above Rise, but I do agree they should be in the top. In my opinion, I think EG probably should be in the top 10.
That's fine. We can put Rise at 9.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think it's got to be EG and Rise. I also don't care what order we put them in. When you get to this point in the power rankings, I feel like we're splitting hairs, you know, because it's
that's the frustrating fun of it.
Yeah. I'm fully ready to just get in the little tube and go on the river float and just go.
I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. That's fine. We can lock it in, and I'll go watch some baby sensory videos and relax.
If people feel strongly about Rise being lower, then I'm happy with that.
I think Rise are going to be very polarized. I think they're either going to get back to a reasonable form and be at the 7th position, or they're going to be 10th, 11th, 12th. I think the chances of them actually being 8th or 9th, where they qualify but in the lowest point of their group or something like that, are really quite unlikely. I mean, we've got them at the moment actually not even qualifying because they'd only be above Knights. So they would, I mean, at this point, the ranking is that they flop, I suppose. But then that's the same for EG. The ranking here would be that they go out. So
yeah. I don't necessarily believe, but, you know.
I don't have strong beliefs about 7 down, to be honest. And also 6 down, because fuck knows what 100 Thieves are going to end up doing. But that one's more
if you have... is kind of safe, though. So, at least...
Yeah, because they're playing with C9, Exet, and then 100 Thieves just have to beat the like open qual teams.
Yeah. And they only need to be 2 of them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless somehow one of the other teams gets an upset over someone else, blah, blah, blah. But... theoretically, they should be safe to make it through.
Yeah. These are going to be mad interesting, though, because I feel also so much of it comes down to when you actually meet somebody. Do you catch Rise before they've got their shit together? Do you catch Rise at the end when they've fully collapsed and you get a free win? Do you catch Sentinels before they have had time to get back to their form? There's so many parts of the moving pieces to do with the schedule there. Let's move on to our final topic of the week, though. It's the most important topic. Who's getting the Wyatt Weekly Award?
That's why it's a weekly award.
Whoa. So big.
This week, it's going to your boy Dre. Because everyone's bedged, Josh. Everyone is snoozing. They're still snoozing. They're still dead asleep. But genuinely... he was insane in this qualifier. He was actually insane, playing another new role. He has played so many different agents at the pro level in the game and has succeeded on all of them at an insane level, except for Jett. And because of that stint on Jett, people went straight to bed on your boy Dre. He has been nasty on so many agents in the game, but because of that one tournament on Jett, Bedge.
Yeah.
And then he joined EG, a team that has just been the weirdos in the community just decided to make fun of EG forever. And it's just a team that has been in the tier 2 scene with results that have had some good players come in and out. They had foes stay through all the transactions. Your boy Dre, I remember there was a post about him like, damn, I'm not getting tryouts. I'm trying to find a team. I'm trying to play pro. but I can't find a team. And then finally able to find one on EG of all places and qualify and pop the fuck off playing Sova, which he wasn't playing before, and Chamber. So he definitely gets the weekly award because, I mean, actually, it's just not time for Bedge. You must be awake. He's nasty good. So he gets the weekly award for absolutely rolling in this qualifier.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people only really know Dre for the Reyna, to some extent Ray's play that he was doing when he was playing for LG, and he was putting up bonkers numbers.
Yeah.
But when you don't play Jett, it makes your position in the meta really strange because you either get put into the flex role or you have to just play a totally different role altogether that's much more supportive. But I was loving how he played this over. Connor, you were talking earlier about making the allusions to Russ, who, Turkish guy, played for SMB, would just run around and bang people out, just playing with a Red Dragon Vandal, just
but he used more
shots.
utility. But he definitely was a lot more utility focused than Russ. It's just he could frag too.
Exactly, and that's what I like about your boy Dre, is that you expect him to be that style of Sova because he played Reyna, and Reyna is such light utility. But actually, when you watch him, he was really smart with how he was using his recons and his shocks and the utility to both set up his opponents and get funky kills with like the shock darts instead of ego dueling a player. Yeah. Showed that he actually understands his place on the team much more than just, I am a duelist who is now playing Sova. So I was impressed.
Kurt, can you pull up that 2v? Can you pull up a clip that I linked that's called like silly shock dart funny moment or something? I mean, it's just, it is a shock dart kill from Dre in a 2v2. It's just an extremely silly 2v2 that got won. And that can probably be the last clip that's shown. Yeah, they're 2v2, Foe and Dre. You know they're about to pop the fuck off. He's coming through elbow, Superman, low HP. just one shock dart in, just kills him, and they win the round, and then they win the game.
You know, there was a direct shock dart kill during the quals. I think it was like on Breeze. It was like the EG match or something. I wish I had found the clip, but like it was the first time I've ever seen someone just like standing in Breeze, like just sitting in caves, and someone goes to go contest in a post plant, and they just shoot them with the dart, and they die.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I wish I could remember who it was. It was like the first time I've seen it though, like an actual like.
I remember what you're talking about, but I can't. Yeah,
it was so funny. I remember I saw it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for episode 78. When we come back, the North American and EU portions will have already begun, so we'll have the week 1 games to be able to discuss. You can see by the schedule, it's actually pretty light. There's only 2 matches per week, so we won't be cramming a bunch of shit into our episodes. We'll be able to luxuriate and talk about various different parts and small facets. We'll probably be able to talk quite... there won't be that many matches, will there?
EU.
That's 4 matches.
NA, Korea, Brazil,
LATAM. Actually, there was one
Oceania Tour week 4.
Yeah.
The Chinese underground circuit is still going strong. There's all types of games.
Okay, well, Wyatt clearly wants to expand the podcast a little further than I had in mind. But until then...
Before we end, who's winning the Super Bowl?
I don't...
the Bengals with these.
Wait, it's Bengals against Rams, right?
Yes.
Bengals are the underdogs, Rams are the super team.
I don't know about
that's
super.
the narrative.
Bengals are funny. So
Kurt knows the actual
underdog.
facts.
Bengals are underdogs.
That's the narrative?
I'll go with the Bengals.
I think Bengals are funny because of the franchise, so I think they win.
I hate rooting for the underdog. I don't know why it's a thing in esports.
Dude, you can't root for an LA team.
Dude,
you
someone tweeted me, but in my Twitter DMs recently, I think it was after, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was after the Champions Co stream. And he was like, why the fuck do you always root for the favorite? You would have rooted for Goliath, you prick. That was an amazing Twitter DM. So I'm taking the Rams, baby. Choo choo. Post in the comments who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. And we'll see you in episode 79. Bye.